What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Seasoned Gaming Bitcast, episode 261. We are back, and I am your host, Mr. Ainsley Bowden, joined by these two gentlemen you see before you. They know him as 20 Milligram Dan. How you doing, brother?
Let's leave it at that, because that could mean a lot of things, But
we all know what it
I'm
means.
feeling pretty good this morning. Let's just say that, and ready to talk about some. You guys know what it means. Everybody knows what it means. All right. Anyway, yeah, I'm good. Pretty good. Pretty good.
Nice.
Pretty good. Yeah.
Might have been more than 20 milligrams this morning. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and move on to our favorite ginger, Mr. Travis. How we doing, Ty Guy?
Yeah.
I'm not a ginga. How dare you?
Yeah.
A ginger?
I'm doing well, man. I'm actually, so I know we're not at what we've been playing yet, but I've had the gamiest 2 weeks of my life these past 2 weeks. I mean, I've played more games than, man, it's an upsetting amount of games, but I'm very excited to be here.
That's good, though, because I have not. So you can host the show today, and we'll see how that goes. By the way,
reverse Ains. That's what they call my 2 weeks.
The reverse Ains. Yeah. It's probably a good thing, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, we took a week off. Obviously, you see that Hoeg is not here in front of you. So Hoeg let us know that he's actually traveling with the family. So he will not be on today, sadly. So we'll have to wait till next week to regroup to our full power. But regardless, we took a week off, summer vacation for me, and as Travis said, just a lot of games. With not sadly, I guess it's good news, but with more to come, right? The big stuff is still yet to hit in September and October, which we're going to be talking about. But we do have a lot to talk about today. A couple of reviews that Travis did that some people over at SG did as well. We've got Mortal Kombat 1 beta. We've got Starfield out in the wild. Dan's put apparently a lifetime into Baldur's Gate 3, so we're going to talk about that. We've got news on Destiny, Call of Duty, Armored Core, Alan Wake, Assassin's Creed. There's just a lot that has happened over the past couple weeks, and it's good to be back chatting games. But you know what, guys? So two things before we officially get started here. One, I want to shout out to Against the Tide, who not only moderates over on Hoeg's channel just regularly, but has really kind of taken over duties, if you will, with Squirrels Passing, on sharing out the links to all Bitcast, all of our profiles, and just kind of spreading the good word to share Hoeg's channel and the Bitcast in general. So shout out to Tide. And then this morning, as we're about to go live, they dropped this amazing rendition, which had me laughing quite a bit, of the four of us who normally podcast here. So by this picture, we have determined a few things. One is that Dan generally looks really sad because he's not playing Hitman. And, he's constantly just sad and thinking about playing Hitman while we're on the podcast. As we probably knew all along, Travis is indeed a ginger. We assume this. It's very clear in this 100% accurate rendition that he is a ginger.
I look like the Pixar character that is like really good with tech and has like a pet robot and no parents.
Probably sounds pretty accurate.
Yeah, pretty accurate. And Hoeg looks like he's about to tell you what you're going to do on the hike today as your camp counselor. That's a good one.
He does.
Hey, we're going to learn about fungus.
All right, kids.
Yeah. And Ains looks like he's campaigning to shut down said camp.
It's true. Yeah. Why are we wasting our government funds, our tax dollars on this camp for kids?
When
kids
my
will
plan is
figure it
complete, it'll be a parking lot. Ha 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 ha.
Oh man, but this is brilliant. Thank you so much, Todd. I've saved that. That's going to be a regular thing in our DMs to have a laugh at. So, and of course, as Hoeg isn't here, and we ran for months without Hoeg for obvious reasons, we figured we might as well bring it back today because it's just so brilliant. We're going gold frame, boys. We are going gold frame today. He's
fine. He's fine. He's not dead again.
Gold frame. He's the man. And with the Midas touch. The
Oh, you gonna
slightest
serenade us?
Yeah, he's breaking
Yeah.
out the 007 stuff.
It's
Let's
gold
go.
frame. He's gold
Let's-
frame. That's his
Gold
that's
frame.
his,
Gold
that's his
framer.
Bond villain name. Gold frame.
Oh, man.
Rick Goldframe Hogue. Oh my god. Yeah, we've missed this. We were already off the rails, and we were having some laughs before we even got started. So it's good to be back, though. It has been a very weird 2 weeks for me. My cousin from England is here with his wife. We've had a great time. It's the first time they've ever been here, actually, not in the U.S., but to where I live. And
You gotta be so disappointed. I mean, not to see you, but I mean, just in Kansas in general. I mean, just like
no, we've been all over, and
no,
we've had a great time. So
it's still Kansas. I live here, man. I know what's going on. It's nothing. It's nothing.
Okay.
They have alcohol on their side.
All right.
So
They do.
their adventurers take them wherever they want.
They're probably like, oh man, this food is outstanding. But yeah. Other than that, what you guys do? World War II, World War I memorial.
I like that you guys are telling me what I've done with my cousin.
I'm asking you what you did.
Well, we've kind of been all over. So
Yeah,
we've been to Plaza, we've been to Inner Kansas City, to City Market, we've been to Lawrence, we've been to Omaha, we've been kind of all around. So it's been good. And yes, we slow smoked some ribs and brisket. And I think my cousin, we joked that he transcended when he had that. He kind of went to another plane, and he said he could not live here because the food is too good. And he's already a big guy. He's like a big guy in general, and he's kind of joked that it's too much. So we've kind of been all over the place. But yeah, it's been good. But the weird thing for me is that I have not played a game really in a couple weeks, which is very abnormal because it's usually hours per day.
Fake gamer girl. Fake gamer girl.
I have separated entirely from my normal routine, which is brilliant. I haven't worked. I haven't worked out. I've eaten a whole bunch of crap, so I feel horrible, and I have not been gaming. And it's good to get a break. I came back onto Twitter like yesterday and started. One of the first things I saw was this.
You mean X?
No, I don't mean X.
Did you send out any zeets?
And I saw this.
Zeeted anybody?
I zeeted.
Nice.
I saw this. Well, yeah, it happens. I saw the stupid, the stupid controversies going on, and I was like, wow, I didn't miss this at all.
Did you see that you're not allowed to post a tweet and not mention Xbox by name? It's pretty serious stuff, serious allegations going on Twitter.
I don't know what's going on that site anymore, but anyway, it's been really nice disconnecting. But I know that it's impending. So starting Wednesday, they head back to England, and I'll get back to normal routine. I'm kind of scared to go back to work, honestly, but otherwise, it's been good. It's been good. So I'm going to need you guys to talk about a lot of games we've been playing. And like I said, I know that Dan's got 1 million hours into Baldur's Gate 3, and Travis, you knocked out a couple of reviews. I did play some Mortal Kombat 1 this morning, so we'll touch on that. But why don't we start with let's start with Blasphemous 2.
Blasphemous?
It's
a good game.
Yeah, you reviewed it. What'd you give it?
I gave it an 8 out of 10. Blasphemous 2. So I'm going to have to refresh my memory because I actually, the developer there finished that game like early. And so they gave press like that game like over a month ago. And I reviewed it back then and it just went live recently. So I'm going to have to refresh my memory. But if you played Blasphemous 1, Blasphemous 1 was very focused on like the combat part of a Castlevania type game, right? And this one definitely adds more like Metroidvania mechanics in terms of like platforming and puzzles and stuff like that you have to solve to get through levels, which is cool. It's still gross, super gross. If you played the first one, it's an extremely disturbing game on purpose. This one is definitely still that. It's a good time. I would say it doesn't really do much to like push forward the Metroidvania genre, but it does a very flattering rendition of said Metroidvania genre. So yeah, it's like just a good Metroidvania game. You go through it, you get to see really disturbing religious iconography, and that's the game. It's a good time. But yeah, I liked it a lot. Glad I had time to get through that game.
Nice.
So,
It's good they give you such early access to it. Is that on
Yeah.
all platforms?
I think so. I
Okay.
reviewed it on PC and then later played like half of it on Xbox just to check out how it worked on console. So, but yeah, plays great, runs great, looks beautiful. Pixel art is really gross. And yeah, if you liked the first one, I would say I think IGN gave the first one a 7, I think.
Okay.
And I would probably have put the first one as a 7 as well. This one's definitely noticeably better, but it doesn't do anything crazy for the Metroidvania genre, but it is just, it's just a fun, if you like Metroidvanias, it's just a fun one of those. So it's cool.
Awesome.
Interesting story, lots of secret endings and stuff for you to hunt.
Okay.
So it's cool. It's a cool game.
Nice.
Good
Good to hear. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that's happened over the past couple weeks game-wise, so that's good.
I know.
Wanted to knock that one out,
man. Yeah.
So we'll jump right over then to Texas Chainsaw Massacre because you reviewed that. Zach reviewed it for us at Seasoned Gaming. I know you guys got some games in together, which is cool.
We got a lot of games in together. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, because and Miles too, I believe, right? Over at Windows Central.
Yes. So this had one of the worst review setups I've been a part of recently, which is that the developer just did not give out enough codes and then didn't organize play sessions for everybody to play together. They were just like, we recommend playing during these blocks, but then nobody listened to them or read the review thing, and they didn't like push it together, and they didn't get their developers to like play with the players at a certain time. And so it was pretty much impossible to get a match together unless you brought your own team with you. And so I got 15 copies of the code of the game, and I gave them to like all the people I like checked with my buddies and people I knew in the industry who were online, and like gave them codes. And so I think even Zach was one of the people that got a code from me. So like I just was like, guys, we have to do this. Like if we don't set up matches, none of us will play the game because it requires 7 players and no lobby. If you click matchmaking, you would just wait 5 minutes by yourself and then it would kick you out. And even if you matched with 3 or 4 people, it wouldn't let you play unless you found all 7. And so it was just a nightmare to try to actually play this game. So I was like working really closely with a lot of people that reviewed this game because we had to like organize being on at the same time together. And so Zach and I played a bunch of matches. Miles was on there. Miles brought a few people, which was super useful. And then just a bunch of my buddies joined us to play the game. So it was super cool because it's not, reviews can sometimes be a little bit of a solitary experience. But it was nice to play with people. And shout out to Zach. He's super funny. Good guy, good reviewer. Yes. I don't remember what he ended up giving it for a score. I did read his review, but I just think I overlooked.
Yeah, so I was actually just looking on Open Critic because if I recall correctly, I believe you came in a little lower. I believe he came in a little higher, and I think the median is in between you guys.
Yeah, I think the median's like 70 or something, which doesn't surprise me.
It's actually 78.
That's higher than I would think.
Yeah. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, you gave it a 6.
I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Which IGN means okay.
Zach gave it an 8.
An 8. Okay. Which means like, remind me again. I don't remember what it means.
Means kind of superb. We have odder names, not as direct names as you guys, but yes.
Yeah. I get why he gave that score. I definitely don't have any beef with anybody who scored it somewhere between a 6 and 8. I come down on the harder side for a few reasons. One, I do think that it has a ton of potential, but it also has some pretty critical shortcomings. The main one that bothered me and kind of influenced my score is it's just pretty content light. It only has 3 maps, and all of the maps are more or less identical in terms of their layout. They each have 2 exits you can get through by lock picking, 1 exit you can get through a pressure gate, and 1 exit in the tunnels that opens if you fix a fuse box. And so no matter which map you're on, if you're a survivor, you're sort of doing the exact same thing. And even if you're a killer, you sort of go through the same motions every match. And so it feels pretty lazy that they just copy and pasted the same sort of map design 3 times. So that's my main one. It has only one game mode, which I think is a problem. It has no tutorial, which I think is really going to bite it. I haven't been checking how people are doing in the first days because I think it became playable on the 18th. But my guess would be that there's a lot of matches where people don't know what they're doing, and that the people who do know what they're doing are getting very frustrated. So I kind of assume that. And then there was also a bunch of technical problems that I hear have been improved a little bit in the days since it launched, but it was really bad when we were playing it, like frame rate, stuttering, and a bunch of other stuff. So it's one of those games that I think that if in a year, if they've worked on it and built up some of the game, I think it will be an 8 for me in a year. But right now, I just think that it's a little early, and there's some stuff I have qualms with. But in terms of like the core game of like what you're doing, the 3v4 mode and the balance and the fun of playing through the Texas Chainsaw Massacre scenario, it's fantastic. It's just a lot of fun. There's a ton of potential there. I have qualms with the game, the ecosystem around the game, but I think the gameplay and the like, we had good times. I loved being a victim, breaking out of my ropes and sneaking away like super quickly. The stealth in that game is great. You can be standing right in front of the players, and if you're standing fully still in like a field of sunflowers, they will not see you. They'll walk like right by you, even if they're running around in the sunflowers looking for you, which I think is really cool. And then playing as a killer is also super fun. Just like, if you're playing as Leatherface, you start off in the basement and you're just like chasing teenagers around trying to kill them, which is super funny. And then working with the killers has like a lot of strategy and stuff. It's just one of those games that's really complicated in terms of being good at it. You have to like know a bunch of things, and the game doesn't really teach you them. It offers a video library, an optional video library of like 40 videos that take like 45 minutes to watch all of them, and then no playable tutorial. And so if you don't know any of that stuff, if you don't watch it, you're going to get yelled at. People are going to be pissed at you for like, as a killer, leaving doors unlocked or not knowing how to use your powers or track down people. And then as a victim, you're going to be making a bunch of noise and screwing over your fellow victims by just being a scrub. Right. And so, that's always tough with asynchronous multiplayer games. They're kind of hard to explain, especially when you have people entering the game that are, just Call of Duty foreheads, not really knowing how to play an asym game. So, but that said, I had a lot of fun with it. 6 out of 10 means okay, which means there's a good game in there somewhere, but it comes with a lot of caveats, which is how I would describe the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think there's a lot of caveats of like, well, there's this problem and that problem and this problem. But if you're willing to look through all that, there's a really good game in there somewhere. And I do think in 6 months to a year, if they develop it more, make more maps for it and flesh it out a little bit, I do think it'll be a significantly better game. So had a lot of fun with that one.
Cool. Yeah, I know we talked about it. Zach said he went kind of back and forth on the scores. The interesting thing is if you look at the Open Critic for it, it's kind of a study in what we've joked about, Travis, around game reviews, where it depends on how you weigh certain things in your review. Because literally there's PC Invasion gave it a 10, which sounds crazy to me.
Whoa.
And there's some 9s in there, but then there's also some like 4s and 5s. So it just goes to show you like how you weight certain things in a game and their importance to you, in a review. So
yeah, the 4s don't surprise me. My guess is that those people had a really, really rough go of it with matchmaking during the review period, which I tried to remove that. I don't mention it at all in my review because I don't think it's a problem that players are actually going to experience. It was a problem with the way the review situation was handled, and that can be rough because sometimes it does influence like outcomes, but I don't think it should. I mean, you should probably try to put yourself in the shoes of a normal player, which is typically what I do. But I don't blame people for like being pissed off because the review period was like one of these guys, I just scrolled through Open Critic right now. One of the guys who gave it a 5 out of 10. The first sentence that pops up when you look at his review is, "I easily spent more time sitting in lobbies and loading screens than actually in the game." Right. And I get why that person would be frustrated by it, but it's sort of a review problem. That's not a game. No average player is going to be like, "Oh, I was in lobbies all the time." Like, no, that was just because the publisher did a pretty bad job with the review handling. So they should have given more codes to more people, and they should have set up specific times for everybody to get on together to play. And the fact that they didn't do that just made for a really tough time. I would say Ains, like 99% of matches that I played during the review period, and I played over 20 hours worth of games, 99% of them were with people I knew. We would all hit matchmaking at the same time, and we would all 7 see each other. We would get matched with each other because there was no one else to match with. It was that bad. So imagine you're a single reviewer. You got one code from your outlet, and you don't know any of the other reviewers. That's what you're looking at. Like, it's pretty bad. So
it's almost unreviewable. I mean,
it's almost unreviewable, which I think is why some people probably gave it a bad score, kind of erroneously. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting. We joke about that all the time, and you know, not to judge any PR companies or anything, but it is weird sometimes, at least from our perspective of how these things are handled. Like if you want coverage of your game and you want coverage of your game to be extensive, the way some things are delivered sometimes to outlets, especially small outlets, as we always talk about, is just bizarre. Like it's not conducive to a proper review or look at your game. So anyway, well, that's cool. So if you like horror, you know, check out TCM. As we said, you can read Travis's review. You can read Zach's review. They're both up, obviously. And, you know, Zach is, you can find all the info on that on our side, of course.
You know what I would like to have given it a lower score for, if it were not petty? Making chainsaw 2 words. I feel like that deserves, you know, at least 1 point drop. But I understand that they were doing it based off the original 1974 film, which also made Chainsaw 2 words, which I will never understand why they did that. And also retroactively, every Texas Chainsaw movie after that has made Chainsaw 1 word, which is the correct way to do it. But I feel like there's a petty part of me that is very upset that they made it Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Does that bother anybody else? Does that bother you, Ains?
No.
It didn't until now, and I just looked at it, and now it's bothering me. So thanks for putting that in my eyes.
I really, as soon as I saw it, I was like, all right, so it's chainsaw. Wait, let me read that again. Chainsaw? That can't be right. And then I looked up. I was like, was the original movie? Did the original movie call it Chainsaw? And I looked it up, and it did. And the sequels, all of the sequels and the reboots have made Chainsaw 1 word, but the original called it Chainsaw, and this game is very much based off of the original movie. So I think they did it. There was a stylistic decision, even though that is not the correct way to spell that word. It's a compound word, y'all. Chainsaw. Anyway.
All right. So I want to talk about Baldur's Gate 3. Before I jump over to you, Dan, though, I want to shout out a couple things. So we've got Debbie W became a member over on the HoegLaw channel. Thank you, Debbie. Appreciate you. We have a super chat from our regular Mr. Don Lionheart. Let's get to that real quick.
Yeah. I mean, they're waking up late. Usually it's in there before we even start. You know.
No, that's Googleman. That's Googleman.
Oh, it's Googleman. That's right. Yeah. Don's, Don is Don the one that like drives through Florida?
To Jacksonville.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Okay. Hey, Don, how's it going, man? Good to see you, buddy. Good morning, Bitcast. I hope Haynes enjoyed his vacation and that you all had a restful week off. Still loving Baldur's Gate 3. Hype for Starfield. Is Travis reviewing it?
Mm-hmm.
Travis.
I am not reviewing Starfield. My boss, Dan Stapleton, is handling the review himself, which I am grateful for because I got a code the same time pretty much everyone did, it seems. And I have 60 hours in Starfield.
How is that possible?
We cannot talk about it. So I saw some comments like talk about Starfield. It cannot be talked about.
I cannot talk about it. I can't tell you anything, but I can say that I'm playing it and I've played 60 hours, and that's all you'll get out of me, unfortunately.
Fair enough. We will obviously be covering Starfield extensively when possible. The embargo is August 31st, so it actually will not be for 2 weeks because next week, still be.
I think our show is August 30th, our next show, and so it'll be
what
27th, man. 7 weeks or 7 days.
Yeah.
Wait, I thought the
Yeah.
31st was. Oh damn!
No.
I didn't realize it was the 20th. I've not been keeping track of days very well at all. Literally, since I got my Starfield code, I've just been
Literally
it's
since you
I've been
saw
gone.
that chain
Bye,
and
guys.
call were two separate words.
I'm
That
gone.
was it.
I another game that I can't talk about yet that I would like to is yesterday I finished Trine 5. Have you guys played any of the Trine games?
I have
Never heard of
not.
it.
No,
You haven't played any of them?
I haven't played any of them. I know
Oh,
what
wow.
game you're
Trine?
talking about, but I haven't played it. Trine.
Trine. Trine.
Trine. Oh, Trine. I've
Yeah,
heard
remember
of
Trine?
Yeah,
You've heard of Trine?
Oh, yeah, I've never played Trine.
Wow.
He's like,
you guys haven't
he's like,
played it?
Trine? Never heard of it. Trine? And then
Yeah.
you just said
I thought you
Trine.
said-
He's like, oh, Trine.
I thought you said
Yeah.
Trying. You know, I thought it was just like a weird San
Yeah.
Francisco dialect.
That's
sorry.
what that's actually what I called it when my friends were
Trine.
trying to play it because they were so bad. I was like, you're trying.
Yeah.
You're trying 5.
That's what I heard.
Anyway, yeah, Trine 5, Clockwork Conspiracy is my next review, Don Lionheart. So
Cool.
kind of the offset of I was the understudy to review Starfield. So if Dan wasn't going to be able to do it, I think I probably would have been able to, which I'm kind of glad he's doing it because that's goblin mode for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like that's like a huge review and I don't have to do that, which is awesome. And secondly, I get to review a bunch of smaller games. So I'm reviewing Trine 5. I finished the game yesterday. I'm writing the review today. So my review on Trine will be live sometime next week, I assume. I don't know when the embargo is, but I'll be able to talk about it whenever that goes live. And then I'm also reviewing Lies of P and Lords of the Fallen.
Whoa.
So
you're going to review both of those?
I'm gonna review both of those. Yeah, they're like a week and a half apart. So yeah, I'm gonna get to play both of those. And then I'm also making a whole bunch of guides for IGN when Starfield comes out, when the embargo lifts on the 31st. We're gonna have a ton of guides. I don't even think I can mention what the guides are about, but needless to say, Starfield is a big game, and there's a lot of stuff about it that will be have a learning curve for players, and I'm making a lot of those videos so that players have answers to the questions that they have. So yeah, it's cool, man. I'm obviously reviewing huge prestige games is awesome, but I'm kind of glad I'm not reviewing this one. And the games that I get to review in its place are great. I get to review 3 games that I wouldn't have reviewed if I was doing Starfield. So kind of cool.
Well, yeah, I was just going to say that we've joked about this many times, but it's almost a curse sometimes because a big game like Starfield that comes around once in a generation or more, if you're Bethesda, and a game that you clearly want to just get lost in. Sometimes it's the opposite of fun of reviewing it. Because sure, you get the code a little bit early, but you can't just sit down and play it your way and enjoy it, right? Because you're trying to get through it to review it, and sometimes it really can almost ruin the experience.
It really, it can be rough. And this is the best of both worlds because I got the code at the same time I would have done it if I was reviewing it, and I don't have to review it. So it's kind of awesome. Video guides team, it's good. It's a good gig. I enjoy it. So it's just cool. But yeah, that's what I'm working on. So Trine 5, I'll be able to talk about that next week, I think. And then
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Don, thank you as always. Hope you're doing well. I want to give a big shout out to Vintage Willow. I know I've shouted her out many times before. She gifted 10 memberships over on the Seasoned Gaming side, and I know I say this every time, but I feel it's deserved. I know she is a legend. We're non-monetized here, so memberships and super chats are all we go on at Seasoned Gaming, and so that helps a ton. So thank you very much, Vintage. You rock. And then Mr. Fatboy Horror came in with a super chat.
Oh, nice. Good morning, boys. Can't escape Baldur's Gate 3. Not sure I'll have time for Starfield, even if it is the damn Constellation Edition. Yes, that's where I'm at right now because I don't know what I'm gonna do here in a couple of weeks.
So let's jump to that. And yeah, I'm the same. I got Constellation Edition coming. I got the damn Vasco robot coming. Definitely hyped for Starfield, but we'll obviously talk a lot more about that when we're actually able to. That'll be fun. Fat Boy, hope you're doing well. Thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it.
Also, I just would like to announce at this juncture that in the 5 days I had between Texas Chainsaw and Starfield codes coming in, I completed a whole bunch of games all at the same time, including Cyberpunk.
Is this where I'm
Oh, you
supposed to
finished
say
it?
touch? Is this where I'm supposed to say touch grass?
No, this is the part. Like, remember when I promised you guys I would beat Cyberpunk before
You
the
did.
expansion came
Well,
out?
why
You
wouldn't
beat
you
it.
wait for just a little
mean?
bit when the stuff comes out in like a couple of weeks, doesn't it? Like the
Because I
main-
wanted to beat the game proper before that stuff came
Okay.
out, and so now I've
Alright.
beaten it. Because the expansion sort of alludes to the ending, the canon ending of Cyberpunk. So
It does.
yeah.
It does.
Anyway, yeah. So now I've beaten that game. I also beat the musical game. You guys know this? Stray Gods.
I have heard of it.
The
Yes.
Yeah. Hoeg was
musical
talking
Greek
about that,
Gods
yeah.
game.
Yeah. Hoeg was
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah, I beat that game. I'm probably missing some. I beat a bunch of games, guys. Like all the stuff in my backlog. I had 5 days, and I was just like, all right, 5 days till Starfield. It's gonna devour my life after that. Let's do this. And I just like burned through a bunch of games. So that's why I said I had a reverse Ains. Like you didn't play games at all the past 2 weeks, dude. I've been killing the game. I've been
I
playing.
handed you
so
all my
many
extra
games.
time.
So many games, dude. I've just been putting it in. So yeah, it's been cool.
That's awesome.
That's
Fat
crazy.
Boy, thank you, man. Hope you're doing well. Shout out to Nissa for becoming a member over on Seasoned
Nice.
Gaming side. Nissa, thank you very much. Appreciate that. And Don followed up with another super chat before we get to Baldur's Gate.
This is how I get money out of people. I'm misrepresent them. Dan, how could you mix me up with Googleman? I'm wounded. Also, the girlfriend is here right now. We just got back from vacation to Myrtle Beach in New York City.
New York City.
I
Nice.
like that. That's my favorite place to go, by the way. We go there
New
now
York-
every year.
New York.
I've been there 4 times in the past
Good city.
2 years. Love it.
It's a good
Always
city.
something to
Yeah.
do, except for Broadway. I love Broadway shows. Too fat to sit in the seats. We need to modernize Broadway a little bit. You know, it's not 1920. People, all right. People don't, they're not 20 pounds and trying to fit in this little tiny narrow thing. I got to sit over there in the, in a chair, next to my wife at the end of the row. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. Just modernize. People want to, fat people like musicals too. That's all I'm saying. But it's great. Good city. Good city. Good
New York is a good city. Myrtle Beach. I actually grew up part of the time in Myrtle Beach. It's where my mom lives. Myrtle Beach is cool, although
Nice.
it's very touristy. Thanks, Don. Appreciate you. Let's move over to Baldur's Gate. Dan, you said I obviously haven't played any more of it. Like I said, Travis has played every game that's been created in the past 3
Yes.
months. Dan, you said I think you have 100 and how many hours in Baldur's Gate since we
30.
last talked? 130 hours.
Yeah, I don't have
Which is-
that. I haven't put up those numbers, but I'm probably like 50 hours into Baldur's Gate. I might be
See, but-
lowballing it. I've put quite a few, but
So it's been 2 weeks since we talked, right? 2 weeks. At that time, correct me if I'm wrong, I think I'm at like 12 hours or something like that, 15 hours, something. Dan, you were less than me, I think.
I was at 0 hours because I hadn't even got the game yet.
Perfect. So in 2 weeks' time, keeping in mind that a full-time job is 40 hours a week, you have put 130 hours into the game.
Yes. Right. That is correct.
so you're at Baldur's Gate then, because you get there in Act 3, right?
Yeah, that's Act 3. Yeah. So
Hey, no spoilers. No spoilers.
well, I mean, it's,
Every
the game's
Baldur's
called
game,
Baldur's
you get to
Gate.
Baldur's Gate late.
Well,
Yeah.
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 But I mean, that's all I'll say. Yeah. So it's kind of deceptive because this is a very, very, very slow game.
Yes.
It's very, very slow. Like I don't know, that 132 hours doesn't seem like 132 hours because I mean, I don't think I've done as much as, like, if I played, for example, Horizon Forbidden West, I feel like I've accomplished a lot
Yeah.
more.
130
have
is like you did a completionist run already. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like this
Yeah.
is 130 hours in Baldur's Gate 3 is like you just cleared your throat in that game pretty
Yes.
much. You
Like,
know,
I feel like I missed so much stuff. I don't know if I've ever played a game like this intense or as complex as it is.
Dense. Dense
Dense.
is usually a good word.
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. I mean, there's times where I'm kind of going backwards around and I just like talk to a random person. Next thing I know, there's a side quest opens up. Like I mean, there's no way that you would, it's just NPCs. Just random NPCs that you could just completely walk by, and you normally would because they're just like over there blabbering about nothing. Hey, my carrots are rotten or something, and then you're like, you go over there, and then all of a sudden you're hunting down, thieves because they stole the cabbage. It's just weird, and it's fantastic, and I think they've done a really good job. I mean, I'm not a D&D player, but if this is what D&D is like, you know, as far as, you know, just telling the stories, and you have, you know, I'm assuming you need a good DM or GM or whatever they call them. I don't know. I don't know anything about D&D. I was more of a Vampire the Masquerade guy myself.
What was your question?
What?
What was your question?
No, I was
basically saying.
I'm just saying.
ahead.
I mean, if this is what D&D is like as far as like storytelling and stuff like that, and the different,
it can be. D&D is not known for its story. Its rules are more made for dungeon crawling, and if you want a story, you have to shoehorn it in. But there are lots of tabletop RPGs that put the story front and center, and the potential is, you know, you want a video game that never ends, where you get to keep your characters and keep telling stories. And I mean, that's the beauty of a tabletop RPG, except for with games like Baldur's Gate 3, they only give you like 5 options, right? You make a dialogue choice and you have like 5 different options. In a tabletop RPG, it's obviously even less limited because you could, you know, make your own thing. But I do think that this game does a really good job of like condensing that experience of playing a tabletop RPG into a game, and I think that's why it's crushing it, because it appeals to tabletop people. It appeals to people who have never played a tabletop game, but they get the idea, right, of getting to kind of create your own adventure. It's cool. Yeah, it's really cool.
I will tell you guys, now a few weeks post-release, as critic reviews are finally kind of releasing, there's 57 critic reviews on Baldur's Gate 3 now. It is sitting at a 96 on OpenCritic with 100% recommendation.
How you feeling, Ains?
I'm not feeling too good.
No,
not feeling too good.
Yeah, no.
No.
It's definitely going to be on the Game of the Year list.
Yeah, so this wasn't on yours, right? You're the outlier.
I'm the only one of the 4 that did not put this on the Game of the Year list.
To be fair, I'm starting to feel that way about Diablo, because, as you know, my predictions were based off of what I thought the critics that get to vote on the Game of the Year would do, and I'm starting to see some of those critics that I know are on the panel, including Ryan McCaffrey, say that Diablo 4 was his Game of the Year right now, and I'm like, damn it, because that means it's probably going to end up there, because I mean, Ryan McCaffrey is on that voter panel. I think he gets picked every year, and he's going to nominate that game. Like, it's going to be on the list, and so.
I think Diablo will be on the list too, but then again, it's the same thing. It's like, all right, let's assume Diablo and Baldur's Gate are on there, and let's also assume they only go with 6 at the VGAs like they usually do.
I don't think they will.
That's crazy.
That's impossible at this point. How could they possibly pick just 6 games for Game of the Year?
I don't know.
Hogwarts Legacy came out this year. I mean, it's not.
I know.
That was my Game of the Year up until now.
I saw some pics of that the other day, and I was like, yeah, that came out in February. Damn it, that's a brilliant game.
Baldur's Gate replaced it, Dan?
Yeah.
Look at that.
For sure. Not even close.
Yeah. It was
Diablo. This game transcends pretty much anything. I like Diablo, and I've always loved Diablo, actually. I've had a really good time with it, but my problem with Diablo is usually I get through the main story, I start playing some of the end game, and then it gets very, very repetitive, and I don't have that need
that grind.
I don't.
I don't really have
down so much, like the leveling, and it was just too much grinding for me, and I got to the point I was probably level 60 or 70. I was just like, this is boring the hell out of me, because I'm doing the same thing basically over and over and over and over again, and I don't need, I'm not that ARPG guy that needs to have those those specific builds and that specific gear and stuff like that. I do enjoy that to a certain extent, and then there's a cap, and then as soon as I hit that cap, I'm like, all right, I feel pretty good about myself. I don't play with anybody else either, so I that might be part of it. But I still loved it, and I still think it should be probably nominated for Game of the Year.
Yeah, your only hope, Ains, is if Baldur Gate doesn't count because it's an early access game. I was just thinking about that. I think it will count. I think it'll count.
I think it'll count.
In the past, they've snubbed games for being early access and not gotten them on there. So I think
they've also put remakes on there, though. I mean, you can't really go both ways. You know,
But there was a remake this year, Resident Evil 4, that could also end up on that list.
yeah, for sure.
Which I think I put on there.
Yeah.
I don't know about the
And
rest.
I think that's going to be buried names. I don't think you have a chance on that one either. I mean, if they choose 6, Resident Evil's an easy cut. I mean, it's a remake. Who cares? You know what I mean? Just cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at this
Game
point,
Awards,
I don't think Starfield or not Starfield, but Spider-Man 2 was the other one that I was looking forward to this year. I'm not sure. I mean, it would have to do something really spectacular, and I'm a huge Spider-Man fan.
So
I don't know, man.
So the interesting thing, I'm looking back at our bet, by the way. Yeah, so I don't have Baldur's Gate 3, and I think the interesting one for Travis is Dave the Diver, right? Because we have to see, that's the interesting one for Travis. The interesting one for Hoeg is he has Sea of Stars,
I don't think Sea of Stars makes it.
I don't think it. I think it's going to be a
crazy.
fantastic game that's loved, but I don't think it makes this list.
I don't think it makes this list either.
Yeah, and then I'm actually the only one. I'm trying to look at this. Sorry, because I'm the only one that has Resident Evil 4 on the list. That's said.
I don't think so.
That said, that I need that because that'll cancel out Baldur's Gate, right? If RE4 is on there, then I win back my one versus you guys.
Yeah, but if both of them are wrong,
if it's not, then I'm screwed. Yeah, then I'm screwed.
Yeah. All I have to do is not be last.
Did we
really
all
it.
put
That's
Starfield on our list as well?
We all put Tears of the Kingdom and we all put Starfield.
Yeah.
That is the only two that we all 4 have.
I mean, that's good. It's got some variety to it. But I don't think I'm gonna win. I don't think Ames is gonna win. I think Hoeg is in the same position I'm in, where he put an outlier that's probably not gonna be on there. I think Dan has the best chance. Now, Dan has the best chance. Because I also didn't put Diablo 4. That's gonna screw me over.
Yeah, and the only thing that's interesting now, looking back, if you think again about the grandiose scope, does Final Fantasy 16 make it?
No, not even close.
So Dan, oh God, I'm screwed if that doesn't make it too, because I have it as well.
You have Final Fantasy? Oh my God, you're screwed. No way, dude.
If there's only 6, gem. That's a Jeff
only
King
6.
shoe-in. Doesn't matter.
If there are only 6 games, Dan,
no problem.
Really?
What do I have? I got Final Fantasy 16, Starfield, Diablo 4, Baldur's Gate 3. I put Spider-Man
and Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah, Spider-Man 2.
I think you have the strongest list.
Yeah,
I think you have the strongest list, but I think Final Fantasy 16 is a mistake.
I don't think it'll win, but I think it'll be on there for sure.
I'm in trouble, guys. I'm in trouble.
If there's only 6. I don't even think it makes the list. But I think we're in for a surprise. I think this year there's going to be 10, 12.
You know what I think could sneak on there? Like Alan Wake 2, if it's really, really good.
Oh, dude, Alan Wake 2, I hope it gets nominated. I hope I'm wrong about that one, because that would be amazing.
Well, again, think of all the games we haven't even gotten to yet that haven't released. Yeah. You know what I mean? There's so many good games. Armored Core 6 comes out next week.
With an act of faith. We don't know. You know what I mean? That was just completely perspective. We could all be wrong about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's... Yeah, I mean, if we're all wrong, though, it doesn't really matter.
That's a blood pact. Yeah, that's like
Tears of the Kingdom and Starfield cancel each other out. Basically, we have a best of 4 is what we're down to. So, beautiful. Anyway, it's gonna be funny. I'm a little nervous. I got to be honest. So,
yeah, your list is not looking good. You got two that are probably almost certainly not going to be on there, and then one that maybe won't be. That's not. I mean, I would be nervous if I were you. I think you have the weakest position, but I think Dan's probably going to win.
Resident Evil 4, man. I don't know. It's a 94 on
it's a
Meta.
Good game, but I just think this is not a year where you celebrate remakes. This is a year where there's so many new IPs and new ideas out there. Silk Song is coming out this year, I think, as well. Isn't that game coming out? I mean,
oh God, I don't know.
Yeah. Like if I would have thought about that, I would have put that on my list too, because I think Silk Song is a shoe-in. I think that will be
that was the one that will come back and change our list for, though.
Yeah, we did say that.
Yeah, we said that. And I would replace Dave the Diver with Silk Song. That would then my list would be amazing.
Yeah.
Sure. All right. If Silk Song releases it, at least I have one mulligan. I can pull one off.
You can pull. What's your weakest one? Probably
Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, that's the one I would get off.
Which is crazy to say.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy to say.
No, it's not. It shouldn't. A remake should never be nominated.
I agree with that.
Never. They're boring. That's old shit.
I'm
It's
not
old
disagreeing
game.
with you, but just
Yeah.
they are.
I get
Right?
what you're saying. They do
You got to
get
play
nominated.
within the rules of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. No, you're right. You're right.
Well, anyway, real quick, I don't know if I'm the only one that has checked this out or not, but Mortal Kombat 1, anyone, you guys playing it?
Hey, I wanted before we get off of Baldur's Gate 3,
Yeah,
I wanted
yeah.
to ask you guys a question because we didn't get to talk about it, I guess. There was a developer, who said he tweeted out something about Baldur's Gate 3 shouldn't be held up
Shouldn't
as
raise the standard. Yeah.
raise the standard through RPG. I was just kind of curious as to what you guys thought.
I don't know what you guys are referring to.
Okay,
I think
so
I got it.
I can explain this because IGN got Destin Legary specifically.
Yeah.
My
Plus,
friend at
that
IGN,
too.
he got in hot water for making a video about it.
Yeah, like a lot of people, I'm deeply excited about. This is Zalevi. I can't even say it. Zalavier Nelson Jr. At Rit Nelson on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Like a lot of people, I'm deeply excited about what the lovely folks at Larian accomplished with Baldur's Gate 3, but I want to gently, preemptively push back against players taking that excitement and using it to apply criticism or a raised standard to RPGs going forward. You can't separate a game from the process used to build it. So let's look at what Larian is taking into the development and final version of this game. And he lists, like a very long list of, like, okay, it's been in early access since, for 3 years. They've done a couple massive games, 400 developers, big license, the brand with D&D and everything. So basically, he's got a little TLDR here. In an era of mega games, Baldur's Gate 3 is one of the largest attempted, built by a specialized group of people using mature tech, specially built to make this very specific game, reinforced by invaluable mass player feedback and market validation ahead of its launch. And he says this is not the new baseline for RPGs. This is an anomaly. So, and people got upset about this.
Yep.
Like, why wouldn't you say, okay, this is what the standards should be? Not necessarily. And I see where he's coming from too, but I was just kind of curious what you guys thought about it.
My thinking, so I disagree with this guy pretty strongly. And for the record, so do other developers. I think it's important to mention that there were other developers who quote tweeted at that guy or quote zeeted at him and said like, hey, I disagree. And I think lots of developers probably do not share that sentiment. But I think the reason it caught fire is because it was kind of a divisive opinion to have that this doesn't raise the standard. He said one thing in there that you mentioned, Dan, which was you can't separate a game from the process used to create it. I strongly disagree. I think that that's a very developer opinion to have, and obviously he's a developer, so that's his perspective, but the consumer should and is going to separate the game from the process used to create it, because the consumer gamers don't care about the process used to create it. That does not concern them. They care about the end product. And so this kicked off a whole bunch of people having very strong opinions. One of those people was IGN legend, Destin Legary. IGN legend.
I saw that video.
Yeah, who made a video and basically said like, look, I think this developer is dead wrong. I think that anytime a new game comes out, it does raise the standard. And his video was focused on how pissed off he is at the state of AAA games recently. That a lot of them have come out broken, buggy, bad technical performance, hastily assembled kind of stuff. And he referenced, very specific games in there. Like I would consider like Battlefield 2042 is probably a pretty good example of a game that, crawled across the finish line when it was launched. And so his opinion was like, I think this should raise the bar. I think developers, this developer in particular, is completely wrong about that. And I tend to agree with that opinion. But yeah, I think the reason that it was controversial, the reason Destin's video was controversial, is because a lot of devs took it personally. Because I think the headline was like, devs are panicking about Baldur's Gate 3 or something like that. And certainly that dev seemed like they were panicking. But I mean, look, great games come from much smaller teams. and I think every game raises the standard when it's great. But you don't have to do what Larian did well to be a great game, right? Like if somebody has an enormous team and an enormous budget and a lot of time and money to put into a project, you can get better at them in different ways. It doesn't always have to be scope. You don't have to make a 300-hour RPG, but like Outer Worlds was a smaller RPG with a smaller runtime and a smaller budget that came out and was a very competent open world RPG in different ways. It didn't do the scope thing well, but it did like the direction, story paths, and different ways you can explore and companions really well. So yeah, I do disagree with that specific developer. I think a lot of devs also agree with that specific developer, but it was really interesting to see them kind of fighting each other over that kind of opinion.
Yeah, I didn't see any of this, obviously. So I'm hearing about it. I generally agree. I think Elu has a great comment here, so I'm going to put this up real quick. He said, likewise, he was referencing something else, but he said, every game doesn't need to be made in exactly the same fashion. What we need is passion behind projects in whatever form. Passion breeds quality. And I think that I like that. And I think to Travis's point, just hearing about this now, one, every game doesn't need to be Baldur's Gate 3 and have that depth or scope or anything else. But I would also maybe push back a little bit, at least on what I'm hearing about, not from you guys, but in general about early access. Sure, early access gave them the capability to get feedback in real time and kind of evolve what they were doing with the game. But there's other ways to do that. It doesn't necessarily have to be early access, right? And we've seen plenty of examples of developers who have good relationships with their player base or good ways to get feedback from their player base that evolve and create a great game. But at the same time, I think that Baldur's Gate is a unique type of game. We don't see a lot of games like Baldur's Gate 3, and it almost feels, you guys can tell me if you disagree, it almost feels like this year's Elden Ring, where Elden Ring coming into it prior to launch was looked at as more of a niche game. You know, it's the Souls formula. It only applies to a very specific audience that wanted to play that game. And then it launches and it becomes a worldwide phenomenon and sells 1 billion copies and whatever it did. And it feels like Baldur's Gate 3 has done the same thing. It was like, this is a deep RPG with all these conversation points, and, you know, it's very dense and it's turn-based, and, you know, all these things that are thrown around as kind of non-casual negatives, you know, that don't apply to the broader quote gaming audience. And I think what we're finding, and I'm loving seeing it, by the way, is that the gaming audience is much more vast and also at times much more intelligent. Some of them maybe not, but much more intelligent than I think they sometimes get credit for. And while the Call of Duties and the FIFAs and everything that are kind of, you know, the global year-over-year games that get played, there is a large audience, and I would say a growing audience, for experiences that are deeper, like Baldur's Gate 3, like Elden Ring, and like others. So I don't know if that adds any context, but that's just what I got out of hearing what you said.
Yeah. It was an interesting conversation. I think it's cool to see this conversations happening in a public forum. I do think that some people got a little personally offended by something that I think is all just opinion based, but I actually think this is one of the few debates and conversations that was actually mostly constructive, I would say. So it's cool.
So Midnight Dreary says, I appreciated Mark Dara's video on this topic. And of course, we've had Mark on the show. Mark is awesome, always has great insight. Hey, maybe it's time to get him back on, have a discussion about this type of thing.
I mean, when I saw it, I mean, and people need to realize that, you know, Baldur's Gate 3, as great as it is and as well done as, you know, it is, I mean, you can definitely tell what was live in early access. Act 1 is amazing. Act 2 and 3, especially Act 3, you're starting to get into a lot of problems that, you know, that weren't play tested nearly as thoroughly as, you know, Act 1. So, and
more bugs and stuff.
So many more bugs. And also, don't play this on a Steam Deck that is docked to your giant TV. It's not the best experience. However, I couldn't wait. FOMO got me. I will also be playing this on PlayStation 5 in a couple weeks. So, yeah, it's going to be, it's for sure my game of the year now. I'm glad you guys, you know, that was good talk. I enjoyed, you know, kind of.
I'll have to look it up because I
Yeah, you'll see a whole bunch of very strong opinions.
Very strong opinions.
Yeah, so I think people kind of got a little taken away on this one because I kind of just saw it as like good, healthy conversation between people who play games and people who make games. And while I do think that the developer conversation is super interesting, I think that there's sort of like 2 points being made and they're talking past each other a little bit, right? Like the consumer point is that good games should raise the bar. AAA games we should expect this level of quality from them. And
I agree with that.
there was a certain kind of like pushback on what the developer was saying, which, you know, as a consumer who sort of agrees that the games always raise the bar. I mean, we talk about this all the time, is that, you know, games don't exist in a vacuum. You can't say, oh, well, grade my review, grade my game as if this other game that did everything better doesn't exist. You know what I mean? That's just not an option.
No, peer titles have to be considered.
Exactly. And I think the argument that like, oh, this game had a large budget, so don't hold that against other games. It's like, dude, gamers don't care about what your budget is. They care about if your game is good. And if you can't be as big and well polished as Baldur's Gate 3 is, that's fine.
But Travis, they only had 15 people working on it.
Yeah. See, I don't care about that. Yeah. I think that's ridiculous, because you can play games that are huge and ambitious and have crazy scope that 15 people could never accomplish. That is certainly true. But you know, then Minecraft comes out and it changes it does things that Baldur's Gate 3 doesn't even try to accomplish, and it does, you know, it is a 10 out of 10 game in my book. So I think I just think that was sort of an unhelpful. I get what that developer was trying to point out, like, hey, not every RPG has this kind of budget, but I think they by examining the developer's perspective so closely, they lose the forest for the trees when it comes to like, but players don't care about that. Players just care, is your game good, and you have to find a way to make it good.
With the resources that you have.
With the resources you have, whatever that means.
Yep.
And so that, while that is certainly a cool conversation to have, I saw some developers piping up pretty strongly, being like, I disagree with this, dude. I think you're wrong. I think that every time a great game comes out, it challenges and should inspire other developers to get better. And I think that's the right way to think about it. So I don't really care about that stuff. I mean, it's interesting, food for thought, but you know, especially as a critic, as a game reviewer, the goal is always to be an advocate for the consumer. And I don't think you can do that if you're letting certain games off the hook and lowering your expectations because they didn't have a big team or big budget. Like it just doesn't matter. It truly does not matter. It doesn't impact the quality of the game. So that's that.
Yeah. I think that, and Lucius, what's up, man? Along the lines, he was just commenting a lot on the Seasoned Gaming side, but I wanted to call out that it seems like where we get into issues relating to other AAA releases and things is where the scope of a game is larger or more vast than the publisher allows the development team either time, money, and or resources to accomplish, right? Where we see, you said Battlefield 2042 as a perfect example, right? It is extremely clear, probably more clear than any game in recent memory, that game was not ready for release. It just wasn't. It was almost unplayable. And when a publisher is dictating that a release date has to be hit, and it's clear that the game's not going to hit it, that's where you really get into some troubles. But I think it's fair to say, I don't think it's outlandish to say that there's been trouble at launch with a lot of AAA games lately. Not all, certainly not all. And there's been some fantastic examples, but there's definitely issues that pop up quite frequently. So,
yeah. And I think that kicked off the second prong of this argument, because there was the first argument that was somewhat between developers, and I think players saw it and were like, whoa, I don't like the way this guy's talking about things, that I shouldn't increase my expectations for games, which maybe is kind of an unhelpful thing. But the second prong of the conversation was, in a time where lots of AAA games are coming out with microtransactions and buggy releases and technical issues and all that, Baldur's Gate 3 comes out and it is like blowing players away, and we should get back to that, I think was the argument. So that was sort of a separate conversation in my mind. I think they were talking past each other, but yeah.
So in that vein, I've talked about this a little bit before, but now that we're on the topic, I'm kind of into this conversation. We've seen many examples, countless examples of a major publisher, right? I'm not going to name anyone, but major publisher saying this game has this release date. It may get delayed a couple times, but eventually there is a line that a publisher will draw and say the game has to release X, right, by this date.
Yeah.
And the game releases, it's not in great shape. It gets panned on social media and in reviews, and it quickly disappears into oblivion. Let's pull out our old favorite on this one, Anthem, right?
Yeah.
So you look at an example like that and you say what we still to this day say what Anthem could have been, right? If they just gave that team more time to do what they needed to do. At this point, when you see successes like, again, I'll circle back to Elden Ring, I'll circle back to Hogwarts Legacy was a game that was delayed for years. And landed and blew, the sales in that game were supposedly through the roof. Now Baldur's Gate 3, you start to see all these games that do get delayed and or take extra time to develop, years in some cases. But then they release, they are widely celebrated, and they continue to sell and blow people away for years to come. There has to be, I just have to assume, I don't have any hard numbers here, but I have to assume that there is a case to be made that the delays are worth it, regardless of your fiscal reporting, regardless of the expectations. There has to be a case made that it makes more financial sense at some point to take the hit early so that you can take the longevity and sales success
I
long
think that's
term.
true with certain games, because there at some point, like if you ask creatives, like when's the perfect time to release your game, they would say like never. You know what I mean? Like
Sure, you're always
you
evolving.
you have to give them some deadline, or they'll just keep perfecting it and never be finished with it. So I think there's a give and take. I just think to your point, like the take has been a little bit too high in some of these. Like you shouldn't take when the game doesn't work. Right. Like that's not the point in time where I think watching some of the documentaries about how games get made recently, like the one on Psychonauts 2, you see that there's like a scope bloat that happens because
Yes.
creatives just keep coming up with new ideas and they want to put more and more stuff in the game. And somebody has to be there to be like, guys, no, like this is the game. You have to fit it in this box in this time frame, or else the game will never get done. I think there's a middle ground there between get as much time as you want and enough time to finish the game. And I also think it depends how far the game is from finished. Like a game like a publisher like Microsoft certainly could have held off Redfall until it was a better game, right? But where you're talking years of development. If you're a middle publisher and you can't afford 2 to 3 more years to make Redfall a good game, sometimes you kind of just got to cut your losses, put the game out and move on to the next project, or don't put the game out at all. If it's that bad, if it's really that bad, then, you just cancel the game and you move on to whatever new idea you have. But yeah, it's an interesting conversation. I don't think in the AAA space specifically, we're in a very good spot because they don't even have an excuse, right? Like they have the budget to harbor losses on the books and keep a game in development for a little while longer to fix it. I think that's what people were upset about.
I think that it changes. It's also probably a different set of standards for bigger publishers or studios than you do for the smaller indie ones. But we've also seen probably within the last 5 years a lot of these big indie studios just come out with humongous hits, and well done games. As much as I dislike Hades, you can argue that it was nominated for Game of the Year. It was people loved that game, and I understand. And it was a well done game. But I'm always somebody. I set my expectations pretty high, and I buy less now, I think, than I did before, and I want that quality there. And I think we've seen, it's just kind of all over the place. Hogwarts Legacy I was excited for, but I never expected it to be as good as it was when it launched. Baldur's Gate 3 I was super excited for. It's way more than I expected it to be. But I don't know, man. It's I can see both sides, and I think I'm fine with like people delaying games if it's going to make it better, But if you delay it, let's take Cyberpunk for example, 20 times or whatever they did. It's a little bit hyperbolic, but they delayed it so many times, and it still came out with some pretty big issues. For whatever reason. So, I mean, and that was one of those games, I think even like a long time ago, I tweeted, I was like, if like Pong was my first game, my alpha, then this is going to be my omega, this could be the game that just is done, that's it for me. I'm just going to leave gaming. I'm going to be good. This is going to, and then I got it and I was like, damn, this is not what I was, but it's still good. It was still a good game. I just, there were so many issues and stuff. And it's just, I don't know, man. It seems like that's what is just happening more and more, and it's kind of becoming the norm. And I think that's bad, but, I'm not a developer. I don't know what it takes to go and, all this stuff it takes to make
but you
a game.
are a consumer, right? And so you know what the end result is. And that's my point is like,
I know what I want it to be.
Exactly. At the end of the day, all of the developer problems are not your problem, right? And that might feel like a cold way to look at it, but if you're trying to be an advocate for players, that's the way you have to look at it. That's the way I look at it when I do reviews, because you're answering the question, is this game good? Right? Not, is it good for the number of people that made it and for the budget? Like that 100%. Stuff does not matter if you're a player. And so I understand the frustration from players because they don't know what's happening. They just know that they pay $70 for a game and what they get doesn't feel like a good transaction to them. And that's really all you need to know, right? If they don't like what they're getting, then they get a game like Baldur's Gate that comes out and they love that, then it's, of course, they're going to say, hey, look, I want more games to be at this level of quality, or I want them to be this level of polish, or I want them to do early access because clearly that helped the game or whatever. That's unavoidable. Player expectation is going to evolve no matter what. You can't control that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's a funny place we get into with the game industry in general, right? Because I think oftentimes if you go to see a movie, you're not going into the movie thinking, well, this movie got delayed a bit, it changed directors, I'll be more forgiving because it had issues behind the scenes. You just care if the movie's good or a music album's good or any other form, any to Travis's point, basically anything you buy. You don't care how the sausage was made, just if the sausage tastes good.
Yep.
And
well, I mean, some people care about how it's made, but those people are annoying and not.
You know what I mean, though.
Yeah, they're not fun at parties. They'll talk to you about. Did you know the sausage was made? And you're just like, oh God, please stop coming to these things.
It wasn't literal. It was not literal.
But interestingly, that parallel exists in games too, because there's people that'll do that, right? They'll be like, oh, well, it was made by EA, so you can't have fun while playing it because they're evil. You know what I mean?
Well, that's but then you see the opposite end of this is Madden released, last week, and it was a shit show, a complete crap show with, servers not working, people couldn't get in games.
Oh, really?
They can only play quick play. Yeah. Oh, it was a disaster. It was a complete disaster. They've done this for really 24 times, I guess, or however many they've done it. More than that.
I think that's the headline here, right? Like, I think devs were having a very different discussion amongst themselves, and players saw that discussion and they took it one way. But like from the player perspective, the headline is there's something happening in game releases that we really don't like, and we want Baldur's Gate to be an example of how you put out a game. That's really all it comes down to. And I get that some devs are saying, well, they had more time, they had more budget, blah, blah, blah. That's all fine. I don't think anybody is saying stop making the game you're making and make it more like Baldur's Gate. They're talking about the quality, right? That's what they're talking about. They're talking about, I want a game that feels the same way that I felt when I played Baldur's Gate, which is that I played it and everything worked and I felt good about my purchase. That's what they're saying. I think devs are having a separate conversation, which is why I think they were talking past each other a little bit. But yeah, I mean, that's a great point, Dan. Like Madden came out this week. It's a $70 game. Is terrible. It's it's a very, very bad game. I'm not even reviewing it, but like the little I've played, I'm like, dude, this is This is
The problem,
unforgivably
it was
bad.
$100 for early
right.
access.
$100 for
to
early
get
access.
Hey,
Yeah.
can I
get
tell
on
you
there,
something?
man.
Yeah.
I looked at the because I look at this all the time, the Xbox Live most played games. I looked at this morning. Madden, you know how there's different editions on Xbox that show up.
Yeah.
All 3 of Madden 24 are in the top 20 played.
Of course they are.
Yeah.
Those games sell, dude. They move units.
Yeah.
I know that the core gamer is a real person, and I know them. I'm friends with a lot of them, and they buy Call of Duty and Madden, and that's all they buy. Maybe they'll buy one other game a year, like if it's really big, like Elden Ring or something. But like those gamers are out there and they play it, and I totally understand the consumer grief on this one. Like I get why players are upset and why Baldur's Gate sort of gives them hope and all that, but you know, I think it's overblown, because if you only play AAA games, you're only seeing a very specific type of development cycle. And I think that development cycle sets you up for disappointment a little bit. If you play lots of games, then you don't really see that same narrative in people that play lots of games, where they're like, oh, the industry's in trouble. So many games come out that are broken. Like nobody who plays lots of games thinks that. People who play just AAA though, they're seeing a different industry, right? They're like, this is not good for us. We play Battlefield, we play Madden, all these games feel bad. What's going on? You know, they're upset. And I think that's the gamer that was upset in the comments. And so it was really interesting, Ains, this week.
Yeah, I missed it.
IGN had a ton of people that were really, really pissed about the article that Destin wrote, and I think he did a follow-up piece as well.
I think the problem with that article, Travis, wasn't, I think, the content for me as much
the
as
headline.
was the headline.
Yeah,
I mean, it really should have. I mean, he didn't have to do that, but I understand why he did.
I mean, I didn't do it.
He makes some good points. I watched the video.
Yeah. I think he made good points, and I think the headline was true. Devs panicking, like it, maybe 1 or 2. I think a lot of devs who are not panicking, who like they took it personally, right? That's what it felt like.
Well, that's the thing, you know, you can't. It's gaming Twitter though, right? It's gaming.
Yeah.
One thing happens, one guy does something, and I saw it. You know, we saw it yesterday.
The Starfield thing.
With the Starfield thing, one guy said something. The entire Xbox fan base lost their crap, and everything.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's just like, listen, it's one guy, right? You basically,
it's one guy with a bad opinion.
His little tiny match. Yeah. Instead of just extinguishing it and not giving it, you know, just
terrible opinion, by the way. We're seeing a lot of those. It was also like IGN also got in trouble this week for posting an article and not mentioning Xbox by name in the tweet headline. Like the things that that people are getting upset about, it never ceases to amaze me. It's very.
I'll tell you what. I gotta be 100% with Dan on this one. It's nice when you're not paying attention to any of it.
Yeah,
I know, right? No, 100% is.
And
here's the thing. I'm one of those guys where nothing bothers me. So I get that some people internalize and feel terrible after they see people on the internet being idiots, but literally I just, it's water off a duck's back with me. Like I see it and I go, that's a dumb opinion. Anyway, what next? You know what I mean? Like it doesn't bother me. I don't get involved in it. I just go, oh, that's just a really stupid opinion. Oh, wow. People are mad at IGN for not saying Xbox in the title. Next. You know what I mean? It doesn't bother me. So I 100% you should unplug if that thing bothers me. If you're a sociopath like me, then, you know, you can just be unaffected by it. Yeah.
Oh,
well, that's a good segue conversation.
It's a really good discussion.
Yeah. We've got a couple super chats that came in specifically about Baldur's Gate 3. So let's get to those before we move on.
Cool.
Okay. Let's see. Debbie with a $10 super chat. Sorry, I'm kind of messing around here. It sounds like Baldur's Gate 3 kept some of its BioWare roots with the depth of conversation options, which is great. If so, more gamers should do that. Yes, it definitely has
games, not gamers.
Games. Yeah, I'm sorry. Games should do that. I agree with that. I think it does have some of those roots, but also, I mean, it's got a lot of what was the other one? Why is it literally, what the hell did Larian do before that?
Pillars of Eternity.
Not Pillars of Eternity.
Pillars of Eternity is Obsidian.
Yeah, that's why I was thinking Pillars of Eternity. That's what I knew it wasn't that.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, by this one, like, they take that and what BioWare did and then extrapolate it into, like, I can't even imagine what the diagram looks like to where you get to the end game of where you're at and the choices that you make. It's got to be insane because, I mean, there's so many things that affect another thing that affect another thing. and they seem like trivial kind of choices at the moment, and then next thing you know, it's just like, man, I really screwed up somewhere back in Act 1, and I don't remember where. I'm trying to like get certain people in my party, and I'm just like, why didn't this work? What happened? Then I talked to one person, and next thing I know, everybody's dead. I've seen 2 or 3 different endings so far, and I'm still going because I just go back to my save. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. That was a huge mistake. I just saw the credits roll, and I'm just like, man, this is nuts. How many endings did they say? Like 1,700 or something like that, or
no, 1,700 endings?
How many endings did they say they had? Like it was hundreds.
Well, I know Divinity Original Sin had like more than a dozen.
There's way more than that
original endings, but yeah, I think that what they're counting as an ending is at the end where they say the outcome of every like faction that you interacted with, and they all have different. I think they're fudging the numbers there a little bit with the combinations you get. Like, if you have even one different, then it's technically a different ending. But my to their credit, the game is extremely dense and complicated, and it feels like your story no matter what you get. And I think that's the important thing. I think the number of endings, if people take that number literally, they're going to be disappointed. Yeah, they're going to be disappointed, right? If they think, oh, there's 17,000 completely different outcomes. There's probably like 20, and then there's different colors and shades in there between all the different factions and stuff.
There's one thing that could cause that number, but I mean, you kind of have to play through it to kind of see what I'm talking about. But when you see it, you'll know it. Maybe, assuming that you did one certain thing in the very beginning of the game. I'm talking in the first like 30, 40 minutes. I mean, that's how crazy this system is, and I love it because this is gonna. I like to play games over, like I play, maybe one time through. This one's gonna be a no problem. This is gonna be easy because it'll be, I think, a completely different experience. Knowing what I know now, maybe I can make some better decisions, or maybe I go back and just be like a super chaotic, evil, piece of garbage. We'll see what happens.
I think that's the nice thing about these games is just their replayability over the years and decades to come. These are games that'll be played for forever.
Yep.
So it's cool. Thank you, Debbie.
And I'm probably barely even going to finish one playthrough. If that, I might not even finish one playthrough. We'll see if I actually manage to get there.
Yeah. I think for me personally, and obviously we all have our own things we prefer. I think Starfield's going to hit bigger for me because I'm more of a in the action explorer like this. That Starfield will have a little more pace to it than Baldur's Gate 3. As much as I adore Baldur's Gate 3, what I've played so far of it, it is a very intensive game, right? Whereas I feel like I could probably, I think over the long term, Starfield's gonna. But just having both those games released a month apart is kind of nuts if you think about that too. So.
I mean, it's kind of. I mean, it's Larry made a big call there when Starfield. I think when Starfield's release date was out, they were like, okay, we're going to move it up, right? And
well, it was obviously the right move.
Big time.
Jesus.
I mean, that was sometimes you got to do that too. Instead of delaying, you kind of roll the dice and see what happens. And they've got some problems, but pacing is. I don't think you're ever going to escape that with that game. It's just so deliberate, and everything you do takes a long time. They need to do a few things like just like quality of life things, like be able to switch your characters way easier than what you have to do now, because now you have to basically talk to the character you want out of your party, then you have to talk to him for a minute, then you have to go over to the next person, talk to them to get into your party. There should be like a quick swap option at your camp.
They'll add all that
stuff, that kind of stuff would make the game go a lot faster. And once they get that stuff in there, I mean, I don't know. It's going to be, I think, talked about for a long time. So, great game in a year that is full of them. So,
Debbie, thank you very much for the super chat. Older gamer in the house.
Older gamer with the $8 Canadian. I think Baldur's Gate 3 should be celebrated, and success will inspire others. What gamers also love is the absence of microtransactions in Baldur's Gate 3. That is very true. I haven't seen anything remotely. I think there's like a digital deluxe pack that you can get with it.
I don't think so, but that was another part of the there were so many prongs of this conversation, but one of them was, and also it doesn't do a lot of things that gamers don't like, specifically gamers that play open world RPGs. By the way, there's a lot of like single player gamers who are really annoyed by microtransactions, and
Sure.
I get why they would be annoyed by microtransactions in their games, but I do think microtransactions work in a lot of different games and different models. But yeah,
for sure.
I that was another thing of the conversation. I think Destin might have introduced, but yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. Older Gamer, good to see you, man. Thank you very much. And our regular Gecko is back in the house.
Hey, Gecko. Ever since I've gotten more into theme parks, I have seen less nonsense about gaming and have been oblivious to leaks, which is nice.
Which is nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
just cut
Sometimes
back
it's
on
nice
your
to
social media a little
unplug.
bit, man. That's all you got to do.
Nice
Like-
to unplug.
I go. It's funny because I've got my list or whatever on Twitter, and then you've got the For You section over there that just shows like stuff that they think that you'll be interested in, or people that I follow whose tweets I don't see for some reason. It's because I've muted words like Xbox and PlayStation.
Oh wow,
and
you're gonna miss a lot on that.
I bet I am. But
See,
you know
that's
what?
why
It's
IGN
great
wrote that
because-
article without Xbox in the headline. We were just trying to get Dan to look at it.
But
Otherwise,
seriously,
we
I
wouldn't
mean,
be able to see it.
but I get to interact with people the same way I did before, and I don't have to really talk about crazy, stupid stuff, And if I need to see information on those platforms, I'll go look for it, by myself. I just don't need it on my timeline. That's all. It'll limit quite a bit of stuff, which is great. It's fantastic.
Gecko, thank you. Good to see you. Hope you're doing well. All right, guys. So let's talk about some of the bigger kind of game news that this past week. And Travis, I do want to get to Destiny shortly because the showcase here is coming up on Tuesday. And I know last time we talked 2 weeks ago, we were going to give you time to talk about Destiny, and we were on all sorts of tangents, and we didn't. So, but before we get to that, I just want to mention Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, which is actually our cover this week because, Call of Duty, I don't have to tell anyone about Call of Duty, right? But this year is going to be Modern Warfare 3, and I think they're doing some really unique things here. And a lot of people that I talk to in the competitive shooter space are actually, I've seen them very, very excited about Call of Duty, some of them for the first time in years, which is pretty interesting. I think what they're doing is really neat, but this year has too many games for me to try and focus on Call of Duty. But regardless, if you're not aware of what they're doing, here's some of the details, and you can find this full rundown on our site too. But it's releasing late this year, November 10th, which is a little later than they normally release. I think late October or at least first week of November. But November 10th, it's Modern Warfare 3. On the campaign side, it is going to be the first time they're doing a direct sequel. So if you played Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3 is a direct sequel story-wise to what happened in that game. So again, it's not really kind of like a remake of the classic Modern Warfare 3, right? They're kind of keeping it in this modern era, if you will. The other thing they're doing for the first time is while it'll have Call of Duty mission structure like normal in some cases, there's going to be other levels that are the first that are calling open combat missions, which are kind of like open areas. So you can approach them in different ways, right? So if you prefer to play stealth, you can stealth it. Prefer to just blow everything up, you can do that. And that's going to go along with their new system, which is like gear, where you can outfit your character in different loadouts and gear, like actual gear, like gloves, boots, pants, all those sorts of things. So I think campaign is going to be quite interesting in that regard, maybe compared to some of the Call of Duty campaigns, which are traditionally pretty linear. You're right. You're like on rails pretty much the whole time.
Yeah.
So that's interesting. On the multiplayer side, this is where I see people getting, at least in the arena of gamers I talk to, that are really excited. So it's Modern Warfare 3, but it's going to launch with all 16 of the original Modern Warfare 2 multiplayer maps fully remade. So if you go back to 2009, I believe, when Modern Warfare 2 released, I think anyone who was a shooter fan at the time knows how big that game was. It was kind of revolutionary. All of those 16 maps are coming back, and all of the modes in the new game are going to be playable on those maps, including a new mode called Cutthroat, which is 3v3v3. So almost like Halo's old multi-team. Ground War and Invasion are in as well. Those are the big game modes they introduced last year with 3 new battle maps. And then the War mode, which hasn't been seen since 2017, is coming back, which is like the huge, gigantic map, full-out war, almost like Battlefield. They're also making some changes to the way movement happens, new stances, things like that. And they're bringing back some of the classic stuff like map voting, lobbies, red dots on the mini map, perks, all that kind of classic Modern Warfare multiplayer stuff that we grew up with years ago, which is really cool to see. They're doing a really good job over there in terms of, kind of advancing the shooter genre while paying homage to the past. And then, of course, zombies is included in this package too. And for the first time, it's going to be zombies that's going to be able to be multiple squads. So teaming up with groups. It's like you and your friends, another group of people fighting in an open world zombie space. So like a big collective PvE experience together. Solving mysteries or secrets, all that stuff like zombies for. But it's the first time where multiple teams can team up like that. So sounds like a very, very big package. I mean, Call of Duty, as we know, is massive as it is, but they have there's like 9 studios working on this game. So it's like the amount of development time and money being put into it is really impressive. And I think it's actually kind of a funny study in terms of just how vast AAA game development has gotten, right? Call of Duty is kind of this unique thing now. But it sounds great. I don't know personally if I'm going to get into it just again because of how many other games are releasing this year. But I think if you're a Call of Duty fan, this is sounding like shaping up to be a major, major release, which is kind of funny because I believe it was late last year. The rumors from some of the big insiders were that Call of Duty was skipping 2023, that there wasn't going to be a release. And in fact, we're getting probably the biggest release we've seen from Call of Duty this year. So anyway, that's Call of Duty.
I would like to play the campaign, and that would be it.
Yeah, and I don't think you're alone. I think I actually have a comment here earlier today. Shadow Writer on Twitter said, I'll sit back with it later. He's to read all the details. He said, regarding Call of Duty, I'm not a PvP gamer, but he said the campaign and even the open world zombie modes sound, very interesting. So,
yeah, we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I'm interested in this one. I like old Call of Duty, but I don't think nostalgia really works. I think it gets people excited, and then when they actually play it, they go, "Oh yeah, this is nostalgic, but also not as good as I thought it was." Like, I don't know, GoldenEye remake, right? It's like a thing where people think they want it, and then they play it, and they go, "Oh yeah, that's why it's nostalgia, because it was worse than it is today." Which to me is the biggest vindication that things are always getting better, which is why Hoeg and I disagree so often. A man who is utterly dominated by his nostalgic sensibilities, and so yeah, I'm interested to see if that'll actually hold. I mean, if they play on nostalgia while seriously innovating and doing some new and cool stuff.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Keep in mind, it's just the maps, right?
Yeah,
it's not like you're playing Modern Warfare 2, right? It's just the maps. And as we've seen, Halo Infinite's a good example of this, right? They have a new playlist in Infinite, came out like a month ago, that has remade classic maps from Halo 2, 3, etc. And it's been a big hit. People are loving it because it's all the modern gameplay, right? It's everything Halo Infinite is, but you're just playing on the spaces you remember playing as a kid. And it's a lot of fun.
I think like a lot of those spaces weren't designed for the toolboxes that you now have, right? Like
they were in Infinite, and supposedly they are in Modern Warfare 3, meaning like height levels are changed for leap it, you know what I mean? Like angles are changed depending on movement.
Yeah, so if they can capture the spirit, I just think like if you said, hey, do you want a Halo 2 or Halo 3 map in Halo Infinite, or do you just want like new maps in Halo Infinite that are at that level? I would say give me the new map. You know, that's my personal preference, but I also think most people want that. I don't think most people want to play an old game or in a souped up version of an old game most of the time.
I agree.
That's my personal opinion. But again, I'm a little, anytime somebody says like, oh, it's going back to his roots or it's got nostalgia in it, I get a little bit concerned because I'm like, I just don't think that works. I think it generates hype. And then I think people go, oh yeah, not good. I mean, look at backwards compatibility. So much hype, and then you look at the numbers of who actually plays backwards compatible games, and it's like no one actually plays it. So,
all right,
according to Microsoft, it's like 3% or 5% or something like that. It's like no one actually plays those games. It's kind of interesting. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. I'm more optimistic about it than I usually am about Call of Duty. So.
Me too. Yeah, and Call of Duty multiplayer, no matter what they say, usually because they're good at generating hype. They've always been good at generating hype. No matter what they say, every year I jump back into it, and after about a dozen hours, 20 hours, I get bored just because it is point and shoot multiplayer, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just not for me. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just not my thing. But I'm hoping that this is really cool. And again, the 16 MW2 maps is really cool. MW2 was like a revelation, man. That game was incredible. By the way,
these things the most interesting thing to me, because
if they do that well, it could be really, really fun.
Yeah, if you can recapture that old school feel of having to trigger secrets and all that, I think that has potential. As long as they're different secrets, an original take on that, I think that could be fun. I love ARG stuff.
Yeah. By the way, it looks like member comments are showing up now. So if you're a channel member, either on SG or Hoeg channel, and put a member comment in, it is actually showing up over here on our stream now. So I can.
That's weird.
So that's pretty cool.
Mad Mo.
Cool.
All right, 11 days until I get lost in space. Starfield will steal all my time. Great show as always, guys. Also, Halo is popping again.
It is.
Any more streams coming in? I don't know.
Halo has been. I've had many people ask me to talk about the resurgence of Halo Infinite on here. I don't think we need to do that necessarily because I talk about Halo too much as it is. But yes, I mean, the long and the short of it is that Infinite is doing extremely well right now. The pros are being outspoken about how good it is right now. There is ridiculous amount of content in that game now. If you were a Halo fan who checked out Infinite early and kind of were disappointed, go back to it and check it out. It's a completely different game.
Are people playing it though?
Yeah, it's in the, again, it's back in the top 20 of played. I know there's some there's a couple guys out there that do like API connections to show how many people are playing it actively, and it's very active. So it's really cool. It has the full career.
Xbox or Steam?
Steam is never a good indicator of Xbox games because remember, Steam doesn't count Game Pass or anything play because that's on Xbox app. It doesn't go through Steam.
So you're talking about Xbox numbers specifically.
Well, but you can be on PC. It just doesn't go through Steam.
Yeah,
Steam does not own the PC ecosystem. 20? Oh, the top 20 specifically is on Xbox. Yeah, sorry, Xbox Live.
Yeah. So that's my, because Xbox Live is a small pool of players. So getting on the top 20 takes a lot fewer players than doing it on like a Steam or a PlayStation or whatever. So that was my question.
That's not strictly true. It's smaller, but not by a lot. It's over 120 million people.
120 million people are counted in the pool of people who are playing, or there's 120 million people who have Xbox profiles?
Monthly active on Xbox Live, because Xbox Live is inclusive of their PC player base as well, remember.
Interesting.
That's where things always got weird with Xbox, because once they brought everything together, it was still called Xbox Live, but it includes players no matter where you're playing. Does that make sense?
I'm just wondering how they're counting monthly players, because like, do you have to go into the Xbox app and play a game from that app, or does it you play people who play on Steam and it's an Xbox game also count?
No,
because it makes you log into Xbox Live if you do it on yeah. So that's my question is about how big of a pool, because I feel like, like if you look at Xbox, like most played, Madden can get up there because there's a bunch of like foreheads downloading Madden, but it's still like a small group of player. You know what I mean? Like
I know what you mean. Yes. Yeah. As far as I understand it, and I've looked at this data 20 ways. It is if you log into your Xbox Live profile and play at least one game in a month. That's your monthly active user on Xbox Live. Doesn't matter if you're on an Xbox console, just anywhere.
So then they're counting anybody who plays Minecraft on any platform, because it makes you sign into Xbox Live, even on Switch. Correct. And they're counting. Okay, yeah. So that's interesting. I'm still guessing most of that is probably like Minecraft players and like stuff that Xbox owns that you have to log in to play. But okay, all right, that's cool.
Yeah,
I'm guessing Minecraft is at the top. Would be my guess at number one.
No, actually, if you look every month, it's Fortnite's number one. Call of Duty's number two. Rainbow Six Siege is up there. Apex is up there. Roblox is up there. Minecraft is up there somewhere. Sports games, FIFA, Madden, Halo.
Sports games, FIFA, Madden. Love that.
Red
Sorry,
Dead 2.
I think you mean sports/racing games, Zanes. Come on, you gotta throw those genres together. They count, bro.
GTA 5 and Red Dead 2 are always up there every month.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So anyway,
those are the people who are playing Madden right now. They logged off of the GTA profiles to go be foreheads in Madden. Dude, I love GTA 5, but the people who play it are the worst, dude. They're the guys who are like playing with they've got their music playing on a speaker, and they're playing their mic through like a Bluetooth speaker, and you can hear all the noise, and they're vaping, and it's just like just all like man, it's tough to be in a lobby in GTA 5.
But I think no, Mo, shout out to you. As for streams, it should be if I get time. It's the same as always. There's so many games, so many things to try and do. So I would like to. We'll see. But yeah, Halo's a really good time right now. Really positive around that. It's been nice to see those of us who have lived through Infinite for the past 2 years and enjoyed it the whole time, but recognize some of its issues. It's a really good time right now. So,
damn. Oh,
yeah,
I would wish I had time to check that out. I gotta play more Starfield.
Destiny 2 showcase this Tuesday, the 22nd, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern. It is to discuss the final shape, which, as I understand, is the end of this Light and Dark saga. You've talked about this before. But a lot of the chatter about Destiny over the past couple weeks, as I understand it, has been extremely negative. Apparently, from what you've told me, they had a state of the game which was just pretty much horrendous, was not what players wanted to hear. And
the state of the game is sad. Like it literally. So for those who don't know about this, I'm sure we have lots of viewers who, and you're probably you live blessed lives if you didn't follow this, if you were spared from this news cycle. But basically, what happened was Bungie puts out these things every once in a while called State of the Game, which are long form blog posts that talk about what's going on with Destiny and what the future looks like and what's happening in the game right now. The final shape is 100 extra gigs on your hard drive. That's the final shape of Destiny. Basically, so usually the expectations from these sorts of things are they set up for the future. They'll be like, hey guys, here's what we think we're doing well, here's what we think we can improve on, and here's the stuff we're working on. What happened this time is they opened with, hey guys, here's the state of the game. Crucible is on its deathbed. We are doing nothing to fix it. Gambit, another mode in Destiny, is dead. We're announcing that here. We're killing that completely. And we're also making some other small changes. And peace. And that was it. That was the state of the game. It was, hey guys, we're killing our multiplayer mode. It's on its deathbed. It's on life support, and we have no plans to fix it. And Gambit is dead.
It's been on its deathbed for years. That PvP is no good.
You're right, but they have always said we're reinvesting, and they put out a post that was like, nah, actually, we're not going to reinvest.
We changed our mind.
We're just going to let it die, basically. And so people were real depressed about this. And what's hilarious is they put it out on a Friday. I think it was a Friday or maybe a Thursday right before. They put it on the weekend of Guardian Con, the Destiny convention. And so they put out the post while everyone was in Florida together. And they were like, the state of the game is get a new job, everyone. It's like laying everybody off at the Christmas party, basically, is what happened, right? Like they had like a big like get together to celebrate the game. And then they were like, hey, I hope you don't make Crucible content because good luck with that in the future. It was very depressing. And so people have been pretty hard on Destiny. I said over a year ago when they first revealed Lightfall that I was worried about Destiny, and I thought
you did. I give you credit. You did.
That the Lightfall year was probably going to be its toughest year. That has proven to be true. A lot of longtime Destiny content creators are announcing that they're stopping Destiny, or that they have plans to stop it at the end of Final Shape. And there's just a lot of general sadness. A lot of people have their livelihood attached to the success of Destiny, because if Destiny doesn't do well, they don't have YouTube videos that do well, right? Because that's their niche. right? They make a lot of games for Destiny, or make a lot of videos for Destiny. And so it's pretty interesting to see it on the creator side. People are pretty upset about it, but also just from a player side, anecdotally speaking, pretty much everyone I know who's playing Destiny is either currently upset at the game, has uninstalled it, or is feeling just really down on it. And these are people who play the game more than me by a lot. Like, one of them hit me up and said, I uninstalled the game. Like, I'm not going to play it anymore. And I was just like, oh my God, like, you play the game 7 days a week. Like, it's like those types of people. So people are pretty upset about it. To Bungie's credit, they put out a video. Joseph Staten put out a video that I thought was better. And basically he said, hey, the state of the game was bad. We acknowledge that. Sorry about that, guys. And here's some optimistic news about the way we're changing strategy and things that we're improving. And I thought that was a nice start, but it doesn't really fix the core problem of Destiny, which is that they have a content pipeline problem and the game isn't fun right now. And everybody's upset about it. But if they had any momentum from the Witch Queen going into the ending of Destiny, they have lost a lot of that goodwill with subpar communication, content lightness, and a really bad expansion that was Lightfall. And I think I mean, they're sliding across the finish line with the final shape in the saddest way possible.
And it's on gravel face first.
Yeah, exactly. It's the worst way to go into what is supposed to be their most triumphant moment. I think the reception of Lightfall has a lot to do with it. The fact that they put out Lightfall at all. But it's brutal, man. It's pretty brutal right now.
So it's not funny, but it is, I guess, comical in a way, because as a 343 defender, as much as I can be, of Halo over the past nearly 2 years since Infinite launched, and so many of those old school Halo fans always love to say Bungie wouldn't make these mistakes, and Bungie ran Halo better, and Bungie this and Bungie that and Bungie this, and then you look at the arc that Infinite's taken versus what Destiny's taken over the past year, and you realize it's not necessarily the company. There's a lot of other factors that come into play here.
Yeah, I think managing big games is hard. I think 343 has made mistakes that are unforgivably bad in the past, since the launch of Infinite. But I wouldn't look to Bungie as the gold standard anymore. I think that they know how to make live service games, but I think a lot of their team is working on other stuff. A lot of their brain trust is probably working on different Sony projects, and so I wouldn't be I would be they both have problems. Both of the studios could learn a thing or two.
343 has gone through the ringer the past year, but I think a lot of we've talked about it. I won't even get into that. That's more due to Microsoft than 343 at times.
But but anyway. Bungie is not a perfect company. They make huge mistakes. I think that they've mismanaged mismanaged Destiny in the last year in particular. I think a lot of people get the impression that they're distracted because they're working on Marathon, and we know a lot of their biggest vets are on that project and not on Destiny. And so it's an odd situation. I am going into Tuesday, this big reveal, with extremely low expectations. I think that they're going to talk about the new expansion. They're going to reveal some story stuff and some activity stuff that you do in that game, and that they're not going to answer a lot of questions that people have, which is, what does the future of Destiny look like? What is your guys' plans to fix it, et cetera, et cetera? I don't think that that's going to show up at all. I'm glad that they're starting to talk about that, starting with the Staten video, but it's pretty bad.
Yeah,
it's pretty bad.
Well, yeah, I hope obviously gets better. I'm not a Destiny player. We've said this before, but yeah, I remember us talking a year and a half ago when you reviewed Witch Queen, and because that was March of last year, if I recall correctly, or February or March.
Yep.
And I remember how positive not only you but everyone I talked to about it were, that it was great campaign and great story, and had all these cool things.
They're finally coming together. They're doing it, guys. They figured it out. Yeah.
And then since then, it feels like it's been a downhill slide. So we'll see. I guess on Tuesday we'll talk about it next week. Obviously, get updated thoughts from Travis on that, and let's hope for the best.
Who's the new gold standard if Bungie has slipped off? in live
It
service.
depends what you're talking about. Live service, I think the gold standard has always been Fortnite recently.
Sure.
But they make a very different type of content, and so you can't really hold them up against Bungie because Destiny makes a lot of story content and campaign content and stuff like that, and Fortnite just throws a new map and some skins at you, and they do goofy fun stuff. So I think Fortnite is the standard for live service, but they also have a very easy homework assignment in my estimation because it's a multiplayer game with it kind of refills its own content constantly.
It's very different when you have an engaging, ongoing narrative that you're trying to do
Yeah.
and a campaign experience versus just multiplayer. 100%.
You're making a PVE like first person shooter. Like it's just a very different assignment. So yeah, somebody in the comments is mentioning Warframe. I think Warframe is really good. They do something similar. Final Fantasy 14 doesn't. They're not a live service, but they are an ongoing game that I think is super high caliber in terms of their output. Yeah, I mean, there's lots of examples. They could all learn from each other, frankly.
Yeah, and I mean, we were just talking about Call of Duty content-wise has been crushing it. Of course, they have, like we said, endless money and studios and resources working on it. But at the end of the day, going back to our earlier conversation, I don't care what they're spending on it. I care what's delivered to me. And Call of Duty has a massive amount of content.
They also are making a multiplayer game. So again, I think PvP games, they have a little bit of an easier go.
Well, hold on, because they have PvE, right? They have raids in that game now in Call of Duty. They have they have an annual campaign, right? Now it's not, you do pay for it every year, so that's a little different. But they have more than just competitive multiplayer. They have DMZ, which a lot of people play now, which is really interesting. That's PvE.
I don't know that mode.
Well, okay, so we'll just move on. But they have a lot more than just PvP nowadays.
I mean, that's cool. Yeah, they've got a huge studio, and so does Bungie, honestly. I mean, yeah, it's a very different. They're very different types of games, and I get why Bungie is in that spot they're in, because they are making a type of live service game that almost nobody is making, and all the other ones that have tried, like Anthem, have failed. And I get the position they're in, but it's still not really an excuse for the past year they've had. They shouldn't have put out Lightfall at all, in my opinion. They just should have. Yeah, they should have just kept that turd in house, and because they lost so much of their momentum. Honestly, if they just said, "Hey, stop playing Destiny for a little bit. We'll be back in a year with a banger of a game," I think there would be a much different conversation. But the fact that they're sort of slaves to their own content pipeline and they have to constantly keep feeding the beast, and a lot of that content is subpar. The narrative changes against you so fast. Fast from Witch Queen to now. I mean, it's just like the lowest it's been from the highest it's been. The fall has been so quick and so far. And I mean, look, the good news is Destiny is a game that comes back from even the worst situations that they've experienced. So if Final Shape hits, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah, true. It's what you did. What have you done for me lately? Gaming Forte in the house. Good to see you, man. He said, I legit quit the game over a month ago. Destiny has been the girlfriend that messed up on you one too many times. Joe Blackburn video did make me feel better about the future of the game.
Blackburn, thank you. I got his last name wrong.
So we do have a couple of super chats around this too. So let's get to those. So Console Peasant just gave us a super sticker, €5.99.
Console Peasant.
Console Peasant.
Is that a sloth? Is that a sloth on a tree, or is that a panda?
Sloth.
The image.
It's a sloth. Who the hell calls it a sloth?
I
don't want to hear
it. Hold on.
God damn it.
David Attenborough calls it a sloth.
It's because
he's English.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe this is just me. I call the animal a sloth, and I call the vice a sloth. So if you suffer from the vice of slothery, I call it sloth. But if it's the animal, it's a sloth to me.
If you're English, then that's fine. Yes,
I'm not. But
you're not. No, you're.
What's wrong with that distinction?
I'm gonna get my cousin in on this conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's a sloth.
What he says.
That's too funny.
I'm gonna go with sloth. Okay, I learned on the what is it? Animal Planet Discovery Channel. One of those.
It's a panda anyway. Who cares?
That's how I learned to pronounce it. I don't know what to tell you. To me, it's a
I think that is a panda after all that.
Yeah,
I think it is a panda. Yeah, but why is it lying in a tree? I don't. Do pandas lie in trees? I've never seen that.
Why not?
I thought they just sit on the floor and eat bamboo. Aren't they like? I don't know. I just never seen.
I don't know why I find this so funny.
It just seems. Look, I know this is not what your sticker's about, but Tao, I didn't have a special tie today. It's a nice day.
Oh my god. Anyway, console peasant, thank you for the 5.99 euros. Appreciate you. Gecko
with the €6. I follow Destiny views via Paul Tassi, and it almost always a cycle of complaint, positivity, and subsequent anguish over the state of the game. Yeah.
Yep, that's being a Destiny player.
So there you go. There you go.
I mean, I'm less on the positive side. I tend to push Destiny pretty hard, but hey, when it's good, there's nothing like it. There's nothing else like it when Destiny hits. But even when the Witch Queen was good, the things I complained about were their core game is still in trouble, and that's why I didn't give it as high as others. I mean, in that Witch Queen review, I said PvP is in a terrible spot. Gambit's in a terrible spot. The Vanguard Strike playlist is in a terrible spot. What did we get this week? Hey, PvP might be dying. Gambit is for sure dead. That's it. Like that, you know what I mean? It was just like such a. This stuff has been coming and building for a while, and I think everybody who was playing Destiny was hopeful that they had a plan and that they were going to reveal on Tuesday, hey, not only is the final shape going to be great, but we're reinvesting on all this stuff. And the messaging we got was basically the opposite of that. It was, hey, we haven't been working on this at all, and we're not going to. So
maybe it's not a sprint, but a marathon.
Nice.
Yeah. We're just kind of getting slothy over there.
Gecko, thank you.
That was the vice. So that was sloth. That was sloth.
Bungie's moving their fans from Destiny hamster wheel to the Matter hamster wheel.
Yeah.
Matter was the code name for, is it their other project or Marathon?
It's unclear, I think, at this point. I tend to think that Matter was their code name for Marathon, but I think there was rumor of a mobile game or something like that. So it might be that. I'm not sure.
Okay.
By the way, not Jack, $5 super chat. Dan, you just read
Jack.
the comment.
That's it. Yeah. Not Jack. Thank you, not Jack. We appreciate you, man.
Jack.
I don't know why I thought that was Gecko again. I don't know.
Christopher Jetser asks, am I optimistic for Marathon? I actually am. I think a lot of Bungie's main talent is on that game. I also think the idea of a multiplayer, mainly PvP live service game is going to be a lot easier for Bungie to manage. They're probably going to look at that and go, wow, this is super easy. Why were we doing Destiny for so long? And then also the ARG thing excites me. The fact that they're going to double down on like community puzzles and events, I think is cool. So I have no doubt Marathon's going to be good. Bungie's a very talented studio, and when they put their minds to it, they accomplish great stuff. I think the thing that people are pissed about is they feel like they've invested all this time, energy, and money into Destiny, and it feels like Destiny's sort of getting left on the wayside or abandoned, or at least it's not as full in its scope as it used to be, especially with the messaging around PvP and Gambit. It's tough.
I know we've talked about this many times, and we don't need to go on a full tangent on this right now, but I think the expectation that gamers have around, I've spent a lot of money and time invested in this game, so it needs to continue giving me new content, is misguided, right? Like, I think that
it is, unless that is the messaging and the entire idea behind the game. It'd be like
of course, they need to be clear about what they're.
If World of Warcraft was like, hey, we're finally ending World of Warcraft in a year, I think some players would be upset, but they would be like, all right, well, look, the developer doesn't want to make any more content for World of Warcraft, so that's the end. But the messaging for Destiny has been, there's going to be a future. We're going to build on this game. It's going to exist forever. And then their actions say the exact opposite.
Of course.
Yeah, I think that's the problem there. Yeah, but you're right. You're right. Normally there's no expectation, but Bungie has been saying expect it, and then then not delivering, and it's like, all right, well, that's on you then at this point.
By the way, Tao is asking for something I'm not sure we'll ever do.
I would love to do that.
Overcooked 2 / moving out to. I don't even know what moving out to stream is, just to see the Bitcast lose it. I've never heard of it. No,
Moving Out is amazing. It is a game where you have to move furniture and stuff, and you have to put it in a moving truck in a time limit, and they intentionally make it really hard to do that.
It's like a puzzle. Yeah.
Is it puzzle? It's like a cooperative mind effery. That's how I describe it. It's the same thing as Overcooked, where it's not really a puzzle. It's just like you have to work together in such a specific way that they intentionally jam you up. They put you in a jam and you're just like, oh, I hate other people. It's one of those games that makes you like really respect team sports. You know, we're like, God, how do people work together? This is so painful.
You certainly can't be slothy while playing it. That's for sure.
No.
I told Tal that trying to get the three of you together on a stream and make the four of us would be like herding cats. Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever pull that off.
Yeah, we're in 3 time zones, I think. Oh, no.
3 time zones. We're always playing different games. We have different schedules for how we do things. Like, yeah, it's the fact that we come together every Sunday morning is already a miracle.
It's really kind of a small miracle.
Yeah.
But Tal, thank you. We will talk about it though. We'll talk to Hoeg about it. It could be hilarious. I definitely agree with you. So
we find out who I get angry. I get angry in those games because I almost never play with efficient teams, and I'm like,
oh,
why can't there just be 4 of me?
Oh, I would, because I'm more like you, Travis, but I have also played games with Dan. So I would play just to see your reaction to playing with Dan, because that would be brilliant.
Man, I would have trouble. I mean, Hoeg has an excuse, like his brain doesn't work and all that, but like Dan, I just, what's your, I guess you're shaky. You got a shaky hand?
I'm a little bit shaky. Also, I don't like those games. I've never been
because you're going through withdrawals. That's why you're shaking.
That could be. I hit another 20.
Hit the next 20.
20
MGs. Hit my next 20. Yeah, if I'm playing, yeah. I mean, we could probably pull that off. I mean, I'm not sure what that would look like, but yeah, you would probably hate me for sure. And I'd be like, why can't I do this? And I start yelling, and then we just start yelling at each other. It'd be a mess.
Yeah, as me and Hoeg are organizing bookshelves in the corner.
Yeah.
Anyway, so a couple just updates on games. So Armored Core 6, I don't know if you guys saw this, but From Software came out and did an over 2-hour showcase of Armored Core 6, which showed a ton of stuff, including obviously new gameplay, the PvP in Armored Core 6, how lore works in the story, and all of this. Anyway, it launches this Friday as we're talking today, so Friday the 25th. And just a reminder that Immortals of Avium, that other game we've been talking about for a little while, that launches Tuesday in 2 days. So how excited are you guys for Armored Core 6? Are you guys in on this?
I'm hell of in on this.
It's from, so you know I'm in it.
I think this game's not going to do that well, to be honest with you.
I'm afraid
I think it's coming out at a weird time, and I think it doesn't have the same hype, and people aren't going to, the average person isn't going to go From Soft, you know what I mean? They're going to look at Mex and go, oh, it's one of those weird Japanese games. And it's gonna be
I don't think it's much of a Souls-like from what I've heard either. I mean, it's not like it's going to have a difficulty, but it's not going to be, Elden
Ring.
Similarities.
It has similarities. Right. Like the boss fights are probably going to be, they're going to feel
there's big boss fights.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
But yeah, to your point, it doesn't have the same clout as an Elden Ring did,
which is sad, man. Because
Armored
Core was great back in the day, man. I love those games.
I think calling it Armored Core 6 is a mistake, frankly. Yeah. If it were me, I would have named it Armored Core. The subtitle would be from the makers of Elden Ring. That would have been and that would have been the entire game.
It's called Fires of Rubicon, but they left the 6 on there. They should have just called it Armored Core Fires of Rubicon.
Exactly. The fact, or just do that thing that everyone is doing these days where they just don't give it a sequel, like don't give it the 2, like Lords of the Fallen is doing, which, as you keep pointing out to me, and it annoys the crap out of me. Look, if you make an entire trilogy and then a decade goes by and you want to call your game God of War again, okay, I'll give it to you. Is it annoying? Kinda, but I'll give it to you. But if you only made one game and it wasn't that long ago, you put the 2 on it. You can't just release the same title again.
It's in the same universe, but it's not a direct sequel, is what they've said, right?
Then why are you calling it the same thing as last time?
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense.
New title.
And I like that you just said if it's like 10 years ago. Lords of the Fallen came out 10 years ago.
Okay, how long was it between God of War and God of War 3? That felt like the right amount of time. How long was that?
I don't know.
That feels like
30,
it was longer.
32 years.
32 years.
I think God of War 3 was 2009, 10, maybe. I don't know.
And then God of War was 2018. I guess it was about 10 years.
Probably less time
Here's,
than Lords
here's
of
the
the
point,
Fallen.
Ains. Here's the point, Ains. They did a full trilogy.
Don't move your goalposts.
They did.
No
No, he
moving
said the
goalposts.
trilogy part.
I said the
before.
trilogy part. I said the
Yeah.
trilogy part, and that is another important factor. Is that they did 3 games. What was it?
By the way, God of War 3
less
was
than 10
also
years?
God of War 3 came out in 2010, and God of War 3 was remastered in
years later.
2015. In 2015.
Yeah. So my point is that if you have a bunch of sequels and you're doing like essentially a fresh reboot, I'll take it. But they did one game, Ains, and they're just calling the second game the same thing.
It is weird. I'll give
It's
you
weird.
that. It is weird.
It's weird.
Yeah, I'll give it.
Kinda
But-
lazy.
Anyway, I think Armored Core, the fact that they put a 6 on it and it has a subtitle and it looks just like, there's a lot of like mech games and they're kind of a dime a dozen and nobody pays attention to them. I think that a lot of people are going to see this and not know it's from Soft and go, eh.
I think that's why they did a 2-hour stream, because you don't normally do that, right? I think they're trying to show people that the game is
That's
probably
preaching
going to be
the choir,
special,
though.
because From Software has not. That's true, but From Software hasn't missed. We've said in a decade, and I'm pretty confident this game's going to be amazing. But I also completely agree that when it's coming out is tough. And anecdotally, at least in our space, right, Starfield has the world right now. All eyes are on Starfield. So it coming out less than a week before Starfield's early access probably doesn't help.
No.
So
Wait, is it coming out next week?
September 1st is Starfield's. Oh, wait.
No,
Armored Core?
Armored Core.
Armored Core is Friday, August 25th. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, this Friday.
No one's gonna play this game. No one's gonna play it. I'm
play it.
convinced. I know. I mean, look, I'll play.
I
this
know,
game.
I know,
I'm
I know,
I'm gonna play the crap out of this, but like, I'm worried about that game. Mitch
You
Saltzman's
know what?
really
You know what it's
right.
probably going to be. It's probably going to be that type of game that's excellent. FromSoft kills it again. I hope anyway. There's going to be core gamers like us playing it, and then it's going to be the game that gets revisited next year by the casuals.
It'll be a 92 Metacritic that no one plays, like David Diver. You know what I mean? Like it'll be like one of those games that you have to like tell people, "Hey, you're missing out on this," and they'll be like, "I'm still playing Baldur's Gate. Shut up." And then Starfield will come out, and they'll be like, "Dude, I'm playing Starfield. That's it."
Unless well, first of all, right, Starfield's not on PlayStation, so right there you have an audience where the argument of Starfield coming out doesn't impact Armored Core.
But doesn't Baldur's Gate come out on the day that Starfield's coming out on PlayStation?
On PlayStation.
Yeah,
But-
that's their replacement, Starfield.
But let's not forget that Armored Core's Japanese audience too is, from what I understand, pretty damn big. So
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, we're looking at it from a North American perspective and probably European perspective, just Western, right? We're looking at it from a Western perspective. And I would say, I don't think that audience is super hyped for it, but that's just my
we'll see.
guess.
We'll find out soon.
They should have had George R. R. Martin create the universe. Then it would have probably gone off, George R. R. Martin creates Armored Core 6. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah.
Huge fan base.
Anyway, so if you want to check out that live stream, there was an awful lot shown. And then it releases Friday, so we'll talk about that at least a little bit next week and more into the future. And then a couple of just other updates here at the end is Alan Wake 2 was delayed 10 days for some reason. So it's not coming out. Yeah, it's not October 17th now. It's October 27th for Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
And then Assassin's Creed Mirage, the opposite. It was moved up a week
That was
to
stupid.
October 5th. So now,
Mirage.
those games were 5 days apart, and now they're almost a month apart between the two of them. So,
Say Mirage.
are you okay?
Say Mirage.
No. Why? Did I say it? Did I say it weird? Or?
No, you just didn't say it. I want to hear the setting in your voice when you say the title. Mirage.
I can't say it like that.
Mira.
Dan did it good.
Yeah, good job. Good job.
Yeah, Dan did it
there you go.
So, Assassin's Creed Mirage comes out October 5th.
That was the whitest thing I've ever heard. Man.
Yeah, it's Mirage.
Mirage.
You gotta
Mirage.
hit the G.
Yeah.
You gotta hit the G hard. Mirage.
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 Oh,
Mirage.
man.
But yeah, Alan Wake 2. So I know Hoag's not here today. Will be a little disappointed. That's another 10 days he's got to wait because that's his most anticipated game of the year, he said, was Alan
Wait,
Wake
did
2.
he actually say that? I thought it was.
Yes, he did.
Wow.
No, Alan Wake 2.
Wow.
So
10-day delay. Maybe it's a
10-day
meta delay. Maybe it's
Well,
like Alan Wake missed his deadline. Like maybe there's a reason in game. You'll be like, oh, this is why the game was delayed 10 days. It was actually part of the story.
you know what'd be funny? I didn't realize until that would be amazing. First of all, one of the other things I didn't think about though is I wonder. We don't know what the Video Game Awards deadline is for this year. Remember, they have that weird deadline.
Maybe they're skipping it.
So we'll see.
They want to be considered next year. That would be
which never works.
Yeah, that
never
doesn't work.
Never works.
No,
never works. Yeah.
nobody cares.
So
I think
Well, I mean,
Halo
it's
Infinite
better
wasn't
for
even
us, right?
discussed because it came out in December, and I think that was intentional. I think 343 released it when they did because they didn't want the hype to be the hype to be cut off by it didn't even get nominated. You know, it got beat by whatever PlayStation title won that year. Death Stranding, I don't know. Whatever stupid. Yeah. Anyway,
you were about to go on a tangent there. I was letting you pull out the shovel.
what? No, it's there's a lot of years that we don't agree with whatever game wins. You know, I don't remember what game won that year, but it
What
probably
year?
was the wrong one. Whatever year Halo Infinite skipped.
Wait, It Takes Two.
It
that
Takes
Oh, was
Two
that It
won.
Takes Two? Okay, yeah, that game did deserve to win. That was a great game.
That was a cool game. Very cool game.
That was a great
Yeah.
game.
Well, boys, I think that's going to
Wow.
wrap us up. We caught up. 2-hour show on the dot. Well, not on the dot, but close.
Pretty close.
Hoag should be back next week. Like we said, he was just traveling with family this week. So the four of us should be back in full power in our Constructicon form next week. We won't be able to talk about Starfield next week. It will be the following week. As we said, embargo is August 31st, but we will be able to talk about Armored Core 6 next week.
It's frozen.
Am I? Oh man, we got to the whole end of the show, and I've got a goofy looking face to finish it off. Look at that.
No,
What?
you look like you're
You look like 30 milligram Ains.
Anyway, so it's great to be back on the Seasoned Gaming side, getting back into the swing of things. You can check out our Texas Chainsaw Massacre review. Cast Co-op will hopefully be back this week, and our normal string of kind of content delivery will be back as well. So it was nice having a break, but I missed everyone, missed you guys. On the gaming front, Travis, I know you got a lot going on while I fix my camera and get out of this 30 milligram stance. Why don't you tell us what you got happening?
Yeah. So a bunch of stuff is currently out. My reviews of Texas Chainsaw, Blasphemous 2, and I think Trine 5. That game comes out on August 31st. So my review might be public by the time. Is August 30th 31st Thursday, Friday? What did we decide that was? It's like a Wednesday.
Thursday.
Thursday. Okay, yeah, then my review probably will not be public by then. So I guess that's another one I'll have to wait 2 weeks for. But I'll be able to talk about Starfield and Trine 5 in 2 weeks, probably. And I'm doing previews. I did a preview of a Tintin Reporter, Cigars of the Pharaoh. That game, I played that one. Flashback 2. You guys ever play that old Flashback game? I played the sequel. Did a preview of that.
Yeah, remember we talked about it a couple weeks ago because Flashback we loved when we were kids. I think it came out before you were born, probably.
No, I think I was 2 years old when that came out.
Wow.
So yeah, I had never played it, but when I found out I was previewing it, I played the old one. So I went back and I played it because it's available on Xbox, and I was like, yeah, it's a good game. And then I played the sequel. I did like Blasphemous 2, Tao. I gave it an 8 out of 10. It's a good game. And I think it comes out really soon. I think it comes out this week, or it must come out this week. But yeah, they gave it to us early because they didn't want us to be reviewing their game in the middle of Gamescom, which is very nice.
Oh, Gamescom is this week too. So that's Tuesday as well, along with Jeff Keighley's doing the live thing from Gamescom. Xbox is doing a Gamescom conference. So we'll have a lot to talk about next week for sure.
Oh, nice.
Yep. So that's that. I'm not covering Gamescom because I'm not going to Germany.
All right.
Although
Fair.
I do spreche die Deutsch, you know. You ever
Germany's awesome. I love Germany.
Germany's cool. It's the one country in Europe that hasn't given up. So The other countries they're retired as countries. You go there and everybody doesn't work, and you're like, okay, you're checked out. You're not trying to do anything as a country. You're just
See what I deal with here?
They're over it. They're just over it. They're like, yeah, we're just a place you go if you want to see old stuff. We don't do anything new. And you're like, all right, great. I'm gonna go back to America. Where we're building things. Thanks. Bye. But Germany, they're building stuff. They're doing things. California just passed them up as a largest economy. They got beaten by one state in America. How cool is that? 4th largest economy in the world, California. Just replaced Germany. Wow. Anybody care about this at all?
No, I'm just letting you go right now.
Kind of cool.
All right, now that he got the shovel out right at the end of the episode. Guys, you've been awesome. It's good being back with everyone today. Really appreciate you coming to hang out with us. Like we said, we should be back next week with all 4 of us and a lot to talk about next week. And honestly, I think we'll have a lot to talk about every week the rest of the year because it's nonstop from here on out. So should be a good time. As always, enjoy your game and enjoy whatever you're playing. Thank you for checking out Seasoned Gaming. Be sure to hit that like, check us out, subscribe on both channels if you can. If you're listening to us on the audio side, please give us a review, give us a like over there. That helps as well. But until then, we will see you next Sunday. Thanks as always. Peace.